Chapter 149. The light patterns on Hardadef's chest rose up, transforming into a warrior with a shield tower in front of him. Zhouwen's palm struck the tower shield, but it only forced the warrior to take half a step back. Hardadef's expression was cold as primordial energy fluctuations rose from his body. His hair flew up as a crown-shaped mark of light appeared on his forehead. Zhouwen was no stranger to this mark. It belonged to one of the 6 heroes, the Holy Emperor's hero mark. It also represented the Holy Emperor's special physique, the Holy Emperor body. Hardadef's present state was a sign of the Holy Emperor body being stimulated. Therefore, there was no need to guess what Hardadef was going to do next. No good. Hardadef is really using holy light judgment in such a sparring session? And Jing's expression changed drastically. She wanted to save him, but it was too late. Others didn't know how terrifying holy light judgment was, but Jing had seen it in the family's database. Although Hardadef was definitely not at the level of the Holy Emperor, a primordial energy skill like holy light judgment was extremely terrifying. It was difficult for opponents of the same level to withstand it. Indeed, Hardadef interlocked his fingers and raised his arms at the same time, making a slashing gesture at Zhouwen. With this action, his tightly clasped hands emitted a dazzling light that resembled the sun, transforming into a gigantic blade of light that slashed down. The blade of light was more than 20 meters long, and its speed was unbelievably fast. It was like a blade of light formed from lightning that slashed down from the sky, instantly arriving in front of Zhouwen. At that moment, Hardadef, who was emitting holy light, was like a representative of God in the mortal world, using the power of God to judge sinners. No good. The 2 tutors who were watching the battle flashed out at the same time, hoping to save Zhouwen before holy light judgment landed on him. The spectating students stood up. This strike was just too terrifying. It had already exceeded the typical legendary stage. If Zhouwen couldn't withstand it, he would probably be killed by this strike. Zhouwen's gaze turned cold, but he had no intention of dodging. Instead of retreating, he advanced and charged forward. At the same time, he extended his hand and beckoned. A palm-sized fan that resembled emerald appeared in his hand as he fanned it at Hardadef, who seemed to be descending with divine punishment. Bang! Under everyone's shocked and incredulous gazes, the terrifying light blade formed by the judgment of holy light shattered like glass shattered by a hurricane. John's body, which shone like a god, was also sent flying by the fan. He crashed heavily into the tempered glass at the side of the arena, shattering it. For a moment, the entire venue was silent. Everyone's eyes widened as they stared blankly at John, who was struggling to get up amidst the glass shards. But even after struggling a few times, he was unable to get up. His body was still curled up and trembling, like a creature about to freeze to death in an icehouse. Bang! Zhouwen walked in front of John and stepped on his chest. He looked down at him and said coldly, "Do you want to do it again? I can give you another chance." John was embarrassed and furious. He was known as a saint in the West District and was known to be invincible among his peers. He had never tasted defeat in Covenant College, so he had never suffered such humiliation. In his anger, anxiety, and embarrassment, coupled with his injuries from the Grand Wind, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. The 2 tutors who had rushed in to save Zhouwen were stunned. They were momentarily stunned. This was completely different from when they had rushed in, leaving them at a loss as to what to do. "Tutors, I'll leave the rest to you." Zhouwen didn't care if John was dead or alive. He took out the Knight of the Round Table companion egg from his backpack and bowed slightly at the 2 tutors. "All right." Only then did a tutor react and hurriedly go forward to check on John's injuries. After all, John was a descendant of the Cape family and had inherited a hero's physique. If he died in Sunset College, it would be a huge problem. However, Zhouwen didn't care. After taking the companion egg, he swaggered off. "What was that just now? Holy sh*t, I didn't see what happened." How did John, who looked like a god that had descended to the mortal world, get sent flying? I saw it. Zhou held a small green fan in his hand and fanned it at John, sending him flying along with his sword beam. That John looks quite intimidating, but why is he so weak? He can't even withstand a single strike. Zhou is really terrifyingly strong. Although he's using the power of companion beasts are a part of his strength. This Zhou probably has an extraordinary background. Even if a student from a typical family advances to the legendary stage, it's impossible for them to have so many powerful companion beasts. After Zhou left, the students reacted and discussed excitedly. The focus of the discussion was on Zhou companion beast. Most of the discussion was about what companion beast the green cattail leaf fan had transformed from. Old Zhou, you really made an appearance this time. You sent St. John flying with a fan. Don't you feel great? What companion beast is that fan of yours? It's really powerful, Li Xian said excitedly as he and Zhou walked to their dorms. It's because he's too weak. Zhou didn't answer Li Xian's question. It wasn't easy to explain Banana Fairy's origins, and Zhou didn't wish to waste his brain to fabricate a story, much less deceive his friend. Li Xian didn't ask further as the two returned to their dorms. John's abject defeat at Sunset College didn't only cause a stir in Sunset College, but even Covenant College was greatly shaken. John, who was the successor of a hero and had the title of a saint, had almost never been defeated. Yet, he had been thrashed in Sunset College. Furthermore, the person who thrashed him wasn't the strongest student in Sunset College, but someone who barely ranked in the top 10. This was clearly unacceptable to them. Instantly, the Covenant College forum exploded. Some people said that John wasn't worthy of the title of saint, nor was he worthy of being the successor of the Holy Emperor body. Others said that John should work harder in his cultivation before defeating Zhou and reclaiming the glory that belonged to him. Zhou didn't know what they were thinking, nor was he in the mood to care. He had just hatched Rebellious Knight and was admiring its stats. Rebellious Knight, legendary life providence, Knight of Fate strength, 19 speed, 19 constitution, 19 no chi, 19 talent skill, reverse cross sword, shield of finality, paladin summon, paladin battle or a companion form. None a companion beast with 4 skills and all its stats had reached 19 points. It could be said to be an excellent grade legendary companion beast. Its stats were even more explosive than the mutated demonized general. Chapter 150. Wang Fei had been in a bad mood recently. It was as though she hadn't been in a good mood ever since she had Zhou as a student. Zhou victory over John had made Wang Fei happy for a period of time, but soon she couldn't be happy anymore. Wang Fei originally believed that after Zhou defeated John, he would build up his confidence and stop giving up on himself. He would become a hard-working student. However, the truth was the complete opposite of what she had imagined. Ever since Zhou defeated John, he hadn't gone to dimensional zones. He stayed in his dorm all day. According to Wang Fei's investigations, although she didn't know what he was doing in his dorm, Zhou would lie on the chair and play with his phone every morning while basking in the sun on the balcony. It was obvious that he was gaming. Nice one, Zhou. You're like a donkey. You walk 2 steps after every 2 whip. If you don't, you just roll around there. Do you really think I can't deal with you? The more Wang Fei thought about it, the angrier she became. She had previously believed that Zhou had finally awakened, but to her surprise, he immediately reverted to his original state the moment the crisis was over. It was like pouring cold water on Wang Fei's head. Wang Fei clearly wasn't a person who could muddle along, so she decided to completely rid Zhou of his bad habit of gaming. She wanted him to completely quit his internet addiction. Of course, the reason why Wang Fei was so insistent was because she didn't want Zhou's talent to be wasted. He thinks he's impressive just because he defeated John? He's still far from it. Furthermore, He relied on his companion beasts to defeat John, not his own abilities. With this in mind, Wang Fei's eyes suddenly lit up. The corners of her mouth couldn't help but curl up as she revealed a strange smile. She had another idea. It wasn't that Zhou Wen wasn't going to Tiger Cage Pass on purpose, but that he had been too famous recently. When he went out, there would always be classmates he didn't know coming to talk to him. Zhou Wen couldn't ignore them when they greeted him out of goodwill, but with so many classmates, he didn't have the time to focus on gaming. Furthermore, he had already demonstrated his demonized general and three-eyed golden warrior, so there was no need for him to pretend to head to dimensional zones. He decided to stay in his dorm to game. Zhou Wen originally imagined that he could game in peace, but Wang Fei's new homework mission ruined his plans. "Old Zhou, our tutor is treating us ordinary students as special admissions students. The homework missions she has assigned us are treatment that only special admissions students have in the past," Li Xian complained when he saw the homework missions. "What's this restriction city?" Zhou Wen asked as he looked at the homework missions information. Their class's new homework mission was to hunt 10 bronze beasts in Restriction City, but Zhou Wen had never heard of a dimensional zone like Restriction City. Li Xian said, "Restriction City is one of the dungeons in Luoyang. It's considered one of the few dungeons at the bottom. The Forbidden Zone isn't considered dangerous. There are quite a number of mortal stage dimensional creatures inside. The highest level is a legendary creature. However, there's something very special about Restriction City. There's no way to use companion beasts there. Be it directly summoning or appearing in a living form, it's impossible. In other words, we need to use our own strength to kill 10 legendary creatures?" Zhou Wen understood what Li Xian meant. "That's right. As this mission has a high requirement on one's own abilities, only special admissions students received this mission in the past. I never expected our class to have such a homework mission this year. I'm afraid most students will fail. The students in our class must be wailing now," Li Xian said. "Is this bronze beast very difficult to kill?" Zhou Wen asked in puzzlement. Although most of the students were still at the mortal stage, the mission was limited to 4 people. With the 4 students' strength, killing a legendary creature shouldn't be too difficult unless they encountered something as powerful as a mutated demonized general. Most of the students had completed the mission of killing ordinary demonized generals. It's indeed not easy to kill. According to the information, the main reason is that the various attributes of bronze beasts aren't bad. They don't have any obvious weaknesses. Although they aren't considered strong at the legendary stage, they are very difficult to deal with. Without using companion beasts, it's still fine for those of us who have advanced to the legendary stage, but those at the mortal stage will probably find it difficult to complete," Li Xian said with a smile. "Let's go to Restriction City." Zhou Wen suddenly stood up and pulled Li Xian out. "Why are you suddenly so enthusiastic? Aren't you gaming anymore?" Li Xian was puzzled. Zhou Wen had never been so enthusiastic before. Zhou Wen said, "Since most students are unable to complete the homework mission, if we can come up with a strategy that allows them to complete the homework mission, do you think they will spend money to buy my strategy?" Zhou Wen's eyes lit up as he said, "Are you short of money?" Li Xian was rendered speechless. "Yes." Zhou Wen nodded seriously. "What do you need money for? How much do you need?" Li Xian asked again. "I want to invest in the game Huang Ji is making. I've previously communicated with him. I can invest 1 million in the first place. He can first create a simplified version. When I have money in the future, I can continue developing it," Zhou Wen said. "Are you crazy? What era is this? You actually want to invest in developing games? Are you developing it for the elderly? Young people these days are investing more and more in dimensional zones. Apart from the elderly who haven't cultivated before, who would still be in the mood to play games," Li Xian said. "Me," Zhou Wen said with a smile. "I'm depressed. You play games all day, so how can you still be that strong?" Li Xian was indeed depressed. On the surface, he seemed to be having fun, but he had been cultivating hard in private. However, compared to Zhou, his progress was clearly much slower. I have to play games to become stronger, Zhou said seriously. Get lost. Don't try to fool me. I won't fall for your trick. Li Xian didn't mention the money again. If Zhou really needed it, he didn't mind helping him. $1 million wasn't a huge sum to him. However, Zhou had actually invested in a game. Li Xian felt that he couldn't be an accomplice. It was best not to fork out the money. Zhou didn't have any hopes of borrowing money from anyone. He planned on earning money himself. Therefore, Zhou and Li Xian went deep underground to Restriction City. Restriction City's style was very ancient. Legend had it that Restriction City was the capital of a dynasty in ancient times. It was said to be related to the Eastern Zhou dynasty, but Zhou didn't know if it was true. However, after entering Restriction City, Zhou immediately felt the companion beasts on him seem to vanish. They no longer had any connection with him. However, Banana Fairy and Truth Listener were exceptions. Zhou could still sense their existence and use his will to communicate with them. Mythical pets are indeed extraordinary. Zhou was somewhat delighted. Chapter 151. Restriction City was very unique. There were bronze beasts and birds everywhere in the city. There were rabbits, rats, and sparrows, and there were tigers, wolves, and peacock. There were bronze beasts everywhere. Most of the bronze beasts here were at the mortal stage. As for the homework mission, it was to kill 10 legendary bronze beasts. It looked very simple. However, without the protection of companion beasts, it would be very dangerous to rush into the bronze beast horde. It was fine if ordinary mortal stage students didn't have companion beasts to use, but Li Xian and company couldn't use companion beasts even if they had them. They felt extremely displeased. There are so many bronze beasts. Which one is at the legendary stage? Zhou looked at the many bronze creatures in the city and was momentarily unable to tell them apart. There's only one legendary bronze beast in Restriction City. It's called the Bronze Luck Beast. There's definitely none here. We can only encounter one if we head deeper in. Li Xian paused and pointed at the mortal stage bronze beast. It's best we ignore those fellows. Let's charge straight in to find the Bronze Luck Beast. Why? Zhou asked in puzzlement. There are too many of these mortal stage bronze beasts. Even if we kill them all now, another batch will quickly surge in from the spatial rift. We won't be able to clear them all. However, their drop rate is very low. No matter how many we kill, they won't drop anything useful. There's no need to waste time on them, Li Xian said as he rushed into Restriction City. Strangely enough, the bronze beasts and birds in Restriction City were originally motionless like statues. However, the moment Li Xian approached them, the bronze beasts nearby came to life and pounced at Li Xian and Zhou ferociously. Zhou and Li Xian tried their best to avoid their attack. Once they rushed out of a certain range, the bronze beasts stopped pursuing them. Instead, they automatically returned to their original spots, squatting or standing as though they had become statues again. When they reached a crossroads in the city, Li Xian pointed at a bronze behemoth statue and said, "That's the Bronze Luck Beast." Zhou took a careful look and saw that the statue looked like a tiger or a lion. It had scales on its body and a tail like a snake's. There was a pair of horns on its head. It looked very strange. Roar! The two of them were about 50 meters away from the Bronze Luck Beast when it suddenly came to life. With a roar, it jumped down from the bronze platform and charged at Zhou and Li Xian like a green beam. The two of them hurriedly dodged, causing the Bronze Luck Beast to miss. Its claws left a few deep marks on the ground, as though someone had cleaved it with a sharp axe. This is what you meant by ordinary? Just from its speed and strength, Zhou knew that this fellow was definitely extraordinary. It was definitely top-notch among legendaries. Without being able to use companion beasts, Zhou's strength and speed were probably inferior to it. Dang! Li Xian punched the Bronze Luck Beast, but his fist turned numb from the impact. He failed to injure the bronze luck beast at all. Damn, how is that possible? The information clearly states that the bronze luck beast's attributes are ordinary. It's about the same as an ordinary golden warrior. It's just a little harder to kill. Li Xian was also very depressed. While the two of them were dealing with the bronze luck beast, the nearby ordinary bronze beasts also pounced forward, causing them some trouble. Zhou used Ashen Palm, but it was useless against the bronze luck beast. The bronze luck beast's resistance didn't seem to be inferior to ordinary golden warriors. However, its speed was much faster than a golden warrior's. It was also top-notch and very difficult to deal with. After Zhou used the Astral Blade Aura, he left a deep mark on the bronze luck beast's body. However, such a wound wasn't enough to kill it unless Zhou could release another 2 or 3 Astral Blade Auras. However, the full force of the Astral Blade Aura had drained him of his primordial energy, so how could he release it? Li Xian and Zhou could only leave Restriction City and return empty-handed. Thankfully, it's the two of us. If it were those mortal stage students, it would be a wonder if they didn't die inside. Isn't the homework mission assigned by Counselor Wang a little too ridiculous? Besides, why is the information given so unreliable? Li Xian said gloomily as he looked at his tattered clothes. Who knows? But that's good too. When I get back, I'll think about it carefully and think of a strategy to kill the bronze luck beast. When the time comes, there will definitely be many students who will want to buy it. Zhou was very optimistic. This was because before he entered the city, he had already discovered the tiny palm symbol and downloaded Restriction City into his phone. Zhou didn't know that the bronze luck beast had no weaknesses. As long as he studied it more, he would definitely be able to find a simple way to kill the bronze luck beast. If he wrote a strategy, he might be able to make a killing. Li Xian had no choice but to listen to Zhou and return first. After returning to his dorm, Zhou opened the Restriction City Instance dungeon and began the process of repeatedly grinding. From his positioning after entering the city to how to avoid awakening the bronze luck beast to killing it, Zhou repeatedly experimented. Li Xian was right. The bronze luck beast was much stronger than what was written in the information. Even a legendary stage student would find it difficult to kill it without using a companion beast in a one-on-one situation. In the past, the special admissions students needed 4 people to kill the bronze luck beast. Now, it was an impossible task for Zhou class, which was mostly at the mortal stage, to kill the bronze luck beast. In the beginning, Zhou had relied on Truth Listener and Banana Fairy's help to successfully kill a bronze luck beast. After some research, he was finally able to kill the bronze luck beast alone. However, what Zhou could do didn't mean that the other students could do it. Even if Zhou wrote the strategy, the students whose stats were still at the mortal stage and who didn't have powerful primordial energy skills wouldn't be able to use his method and strategy. Is there really no other way? As Zhou continued killing the bronze luck beast, he studied it, hoping to find a way for his mortal stage classmates to kill the bronze luck beast. At that moment, Wang Fei had a smug look on her face. She had indeed issued the homework mission to kill the bronze luck beast, but she had tampered with the mission. Apart from Zhou and Li Xian, the other students had received missions to kill mortal stage bronze beasts. Only the 2 of them had received the mission to kill legendary bronze beasts. If I don't let those 2 suffer a little, they will really think highly of themselves. Wang Fei was very certain that Zhou and Li Xian wouldn't be able to complete the mission. This homework mission was also prepared for the legendary stage special admissions students this year. It hadn't been officially issued. Even those special admissions students needed 3 or 4 people to join forces to have a chance of killing the bronze luck beast. Now, their class only had Li Xian and Zhou at the legendary stage. It was impossible for them to find other students to help. Thinking of how Zhou would come to her dejectedly if he couldn't complete the mission, Wang Fei looked forward to that scene. Chapter 152. The cold river water flowed out from the mountain. The bright moonlight shone on the river, causing it to shimmer like fish scales. Although the moonlight was bright, it was still terrifyingly dark under the water. The distant mountain pass was like a huge abyss that could devour everything at any moment. By the river bank, there was a fortification made of reinforced concrete. Soldiers held binoculars and kept monitoring the mountain pass. It's been more than 10 days, but there hasn't been any commotion in Chess Mountain. Is it really as terrifying as you say? A soldier muttered. You were transferred here too late. That's because you didn't see the situation back then. Otherwise, you would have peed your pants, another middle-aged soldier said with a chuckle. What's there to be afraid of? It's not like I haven't entered dimensional zones before. What haven't I seen? Last month, our platoon was ordered to explore a dimensional zone and killed countless dimensional creatures, the soldier from before said with a twitch of his lips. The middle-aged soldier curled his lips and said, I've been a soldier for so many years. The dimensional creatures I've entered and seen are more than the women you have seen. But that day I nearly peed my pants from fright. If you had really seen it, you would probably have peed your pants on the spot. What did you see that day? The soldier asked curiously. That day we were ordered to guard the mountain pass. We were planning on entering the mountain early the next morning to explore the dimensional zone in Chess Mountain, but that night, the Chiha River's water suddenly turned into blood. As the middle-aged soldier spoke, he subconsciously pointed at the river. However, when his gaze met the river's surface, he suddenly widened his eyes and stammered, Just like now, the young soldier turned his head and saw that under the moonlight, the originally sparkling surface of the lake had turned blood-red at some point. The blood-red color quickly spread out from the mountain pass, and in just a moment, the entire river had turned into a deep blood-red like the color of blood. The alarm in the base sounded as all the soldiers and officers who were on duty or resting got up. As the highest-ranking officer here, Zhao Mai immediately rushed to the periphery of the fortifications. When he saw the slowly flowing blood river, his expression turned abnormally solemn. General Zhao, something has come out from Chess Mountain's mountain pass, shouted a soldier who had been using binoculars to monitor the mountain pass. Zhao Mai took the binoculars and looked over. Sure enough, he saw something walking over the river from the mountain pass. He adjusted the focus of the night vision binoculars, and when he saw what it was, his expression changed drastically. He saw a humanoid creature walking over the blood river. The clothes he wore were very strange. It should be a product of an ancient era. But that was not the main point. The main point was that his shoulder was empty. There was no head, but in his hand there was a head. The head did not look like that of a human either. It had a green face and sharp fangs. It had a head of scarlet hair and a pair of strange horns on its head. The headless monster held its head in one hand and stepped on the river of blood. It walked out of Chess Mountain and gradually approached the fortifications by the river bank. Fire! Zhao Mai waited for the headless monster to enter the firing range before calmly giving the order. Fire! Fire! Hit it hard! The soldiers who received the order raised their guns and aimed at the headless monster on the river. They fired crazily. The raindrop-like bullets hit the headless monster's body, immediately tearing his clothes apart. In the blink of an eye, his clothes were riddled with holes. The headless monster stood motionless on the river. The soldiers couldn't help but stop shooting, but they soon realized that something was amiss. The headless monster's clothes were riddled with holes, but no blood flowed out. Suddenly, the head in the headless monster's hand opened its eyes. Its eyes were crimson like blood, as though they contained an endless river of blood. No good. Zhao Mai's expression changed as he summoned his companion beast, Guardian Spirit Eagle. It transformed into a barrier of light that protected the nearby area. The headless monster's body shook violently, and the bullets that were supposed to have entered its body shot back like raindrops. Moreover, those bullets followed their original trajectories and returned to the headless monster's body without any deviation. Bam! 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 The barrier of light formed by the guardian spirit eagle failed to block the bullets that shot back. It was riddled with holes. Instantly, there were screams as the bullets shot back and penetrated the soldiers' bodies. In a moment, more than half of the soldiers who had fired were injured. Change to the latest essence gold bullets and continue shooting. Zhao Mai gave the order, but when he looked at the river again, he realized that the headless monster had vanished. Apart from the moonlight that scattered across the river, there was nothing else. Zhao Mai cursed inwardly as he summoned his companion beast armor and weapon. When he turned around, he realized that the headless monster was holding the head. At some point in time, it was already standing in the fortifications. The ghastly head and blood-red eyes stared at Zhao Mai and the soldiers with a bloodthirsty gaze. Inform the overseer and the others to prepare for battle. As Zhao Mai spoke, he raised his saber and slashed at the headless monster. The saber beam streaked across dozens of meters like a rainbow. To his surprise, the headless monster didn't dodge. Instead, it raised the head in its hand and blocked Zhao Mai's saber beam. Clang! The saber beam slashed at the ghastly face, but it failed to slice through its skin. The pair of blood-red eyes stared at Zhao Mai under the saber as a strange smile appeared on its face. Ah! Blood splattered as gunshots rang out everywhere. The silent night was completely broken. Chiha River Base requesting reinforcements. Chiha River Base requesting reinforcements. A dimensional creature has rushed out of Chess Mountain. It has already rushed into the base. Please provide immediate support. When Ah Xing received the news, his expression, which seemed as if he was unfazed by the collapse of the sky, changed. He immediately sought Tianzua's advice. Hold on for 20 minutes. Reinforcements will be here soon, Tianzua answered. Something happened to Chess Mountain after all. Mai is there, Ah Xing said worriedly. Let's go. Tianzua interrupted Ah Xing and only said one word. Several helicopters quickly took off, carrying Tianzua, Ah Xing, and a portion of the vanguard towards Chess Mountain. When they arrived at Chiha River Base, they saw severed limbs everywhere. From the wounds, it looked like they had been bitten off by something. From afar, he could still hear the sounds of collision. Ah Xing rushed over impatiently and saw the situation in front of him. Immediately, his eyes turned red. Chapter 153. Blood flowed like a river and corpses were strewn everywhere. There was only one living person left fighting in the entire base. Or rather, it could be said that he couldn't be considered a living person. His left arm had been severed, and his body was covered in bite wounds. A large piece of flesh had been bitten off his left rib, and his internal organs could be vaguely seen. Many of the wounds on his leg revealed his bones. Even so, the person was still desperately fighting a headless monster that was holding a head. Crack! The head in the headless monster's hand bit the person's thigh, snapping his left thigh bone. The person immediately lost his footing and retreated as blood flowed to the ground. Ah Xing's eyes were bloodshot as he drew his gun and fired at the headless monster. At the same time, he rushed over to support Zhao Mai, who was about to fall. Mai, why aren't you retreating? Ah Xing asked through gritted teeth as he carried Zhao Mai's crippled body. Overseer told us to hold on for 20 minutes. How can I retreat before the time is up? A smile appeared on Zhao Mai's pale face. Besides, we can retreat, but the city behind us can't. Ah Xing, don't be sad for me. Everyone has such a day. I just left a little early. When you're tired in the future, we can reunite below and drink and brag together. Bam! 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 The continuous bullets only left a few bloody holes on the headless monster's body. They failed to truly injure it. The headless monster roared with the head in its hand. It withstood the assault of 7 to 8 soldiers and pounced at Tianzua. Clearly, the headless monster's intelligence wasn't low. It could tell that Tianzua was the leader of these people, and wanted to kill him first. The headless monster's skin suffused a demonic red glow. The bullets made of essence gold couldn't injure it either. It charged over and bit at Entienzo with the head in its hand. Entienzo's expression didn't change as he pulled out a pistol and fired 2 shots at the headless monster. Bam! Bam! The first bullet hit the cheekbone of the head, causing it to tilt slightly to the side. The second bullet shot straight into the ear. Blood immediately spewed out of the ear before it bled from all 7 orifices. The eyeball exploded as the headless body collapsed to the ground. Entienzo didn't look at the corpse as he walked towards Ah Sheng, who was carrying Zhao Mai. Overseer, Mai is dead. Ah Sheng looked up, his eyes filled with sorrow. As for Zhao Mai, who was in his arms, he was no longer breathing. I took charge of the family at the age of 13. At that time, Mai was already a brigadier general. After so many years, he's still a brigadier general. It's not that he doesn't have the chance to be promoted, nor is it because he's not capable enough. It's because he wants to stand at the front lines of Chess Mountain and protect the people he can no longer protect. Entienzo sighed. Let him go. He's too tired. Overseer, when I first joined the army, it was Mai who took care of me and taught me. I want to bring him back to be buried with his family, Ah Sheng said. He has no family. Entienzo said, his family died in Chess Mountain. Even their corpses couldn't be found. Ah Sheng immediately fell silent, unable to say a word. However, he felt an indescribable discomfort. Let's bury him outside Chess Mountain. Let him watch from here. One day we will enter Chess Mountain on his behalf and slay all the dimensional creatures. Perhaps only then can he truly rest in peace, Entienzo said. Now the situation at Chess Mountain is getting worse. Even our latest essence gold bullets are gradually losing their effectiveness. I'm afraid the situation will only get worse, Ah Sheng said. Therefore, we have to find the source of the dimensional zones and resolve the problem at its root. Otherwise, it's useless no matter how many dimensional creatures we kill. Entienzo looked in the direction of Chess Mountain and said, Now, there are many dimensional zones across the Federation with breakout creatures. If we can't find a solution as soon as possible, it won't just be Mai and these soldiers who will die. When that happens, all of humanity will suffer a calamity. There's not much time left for us. Let's go. We don't have time to grieve. There are still many things waiting for us to do. Zhou had been studying a simple strategy to kill the bronze luck beast, but he didn't know that other than him and Li Xian, no one else in his class could use this strategy. After a few days, Zhou finally figured out a way to kill the bronze luck beast at the mortal stage. After getting Li Xian over, he planned on giving it a try with the 2 of them. I say, old Zhou, is your strategy really good? Li Xian looked at the strategy Zhou had written and found it unbelievable that he could kill the bronze luck beast so easily. Don't underestimate it. This is the result of my hard work over the past few days. As long as you follow the steps, you will definitely be able to easily kill the bronze luck beast, Zhou said as he filmed Li Xian with a camera. Are you sure you don't need 2 people? Can I do it myself? Li Xian still found it unbelievable. Yes, Zhou said with certainty. Why don't you give it a try with me first? It's the first time, so it's inevitable that there will be mistakes. If something happens with the 2 of us, we can take care of each other. It's easier to remedy the situation. Li Xian felt that Zhou had only come once with him. If there was a problem with the strategy he wrote, wouldn't he be in trouble? He had to drag Zhou in no matter what. Aren't I in charge of filming you? If anything goes wrong, I'll naturally take action, Zhou said. Li Xian thought about it and realized that it made sense. Since Zhou was going in with him, if something happened, it was impossible for Zhou to stand by and continue filming the process of his death, right? The 2 of them entered Restriction City one after another. Li Xian rushed forward according to the strategy Zhou had written, while Zhou followed behind to film him. Soon, they rushed into Restriction City. Li Xian was originally worried that Zhou Wen's strategy would be wrong, but when he rushed in according to the strategy Zhou Wen had written, he realized that it was as though he had entered an uninhabited land. The bronze beasts couldn't touch him at all. Finally, when he fought the bronze luck beast, he used his positioning and the bronze luck beast's weakness to easily kill it. It was so easy that it made Li Xian suspect if it was the bronze luck beast they had encountered before. Old Zhou, your strategy is really impressive. How did you come up with this? Li Xian tried again and realized that killing the bronze luck beast was ridiculously easy. Not to mention him, even ordinary mortal stage students wouldn't find it difficult to kill the bronze luck beast if they joined forces if they knew its weakness. Do you think this strategy can be sold for money? Zhou Wen was still more concerned about money. Definitely. There will definitely be people willing to spend money to buy such an awesome strategy. Without this strategy, the students in our class who are still at the mortal stage definitely won't be able to complete the homework mission, Li Xian said with certainty. Alright, let's go back and find a buyer now. Zhou Wen wanted to know how much his strategy could be sold for. Chapter 154. What did you say? Li Xian's eyes widened as he glared at a female classmate and shouted. The girl looked a little afraid as she whispered, My mission has already been completed. There's no need. There's no need to buy your strategy, that's impossible. Are you joking with me? How can you kill a bronze luck beast? Li Xian glared at the girl in disbelief. The girl said carefully, I didn't kill a bronze luck beast. I only killed 10 bronze bunnies and completed the mission. Bronze bunnies? Isn't our mission to kill legendary bronze beasts? What's the point of killing bronze bunnies? Li Xian frowned. The homework mission didn't say that we have to kill legendary bronze beasts. It only says that we have to kill bronze beasts. The girl hurriedly took out her phone and showed it to Li Xian. Indeed, her homework mission only said that she had to kill bronze beasts. It didn't say that she had to kill legendary creatures. That's impossible? Could we have seen wrongly? Li Xian hurriedly took out his phone and looked at his homework mission again to confirm that he hadn't seen wrongly. It did say that he had to kill legendary bronze beasts. Old Zhou, what's in your message? Li Xian asked Zhou Wen again. It's the same as yours. Zhou Wen took out his phone and handed it to Li Xian. Li Xian took a look and indeed, it was the same as his. Then, he quickly made a few phone calls. After a while, he looked at Zhou Wen with an odd expression and said, In our class, all the students received the mission to kill bronze beasts. Only the 2 of us received the mission to kill legendary bronze beasts. Could it have been sent wrongly? Zhou Wen asked. It's impossible for it to be wrong. Such a message is sent in a group. If it's wrong, it should be all the students. How can it be just the 2 of us? It's clearly sent to us alone, Li Xian said. Does that mean that my strategy is useless? The first question Zhou Wen thought of wasn't why Wang Fei had given the 2 of them such a high difficulty, but if his strategy could still be sold for money. That's hard to say. According to what I know, the special admissions class has also received this mission. However, those fellows are basically at the legendary stage. Furthermore, all of them are arrogant. I'm afraid they won't spend money to buy your strategy, Li Xian said. When Zhou Wen heard that he might not be able to sell it for money, he couldn't help but frown slightly. However, when he thought of Wang Lu, Zhou Wen's eyes lit up again. He turned to Li Xian and asked, Li Xian, does Restriction City have something like a record? Something like killing a bronze luck beast at the fastest speed? Definitely. Such records exist in every dimensional zone. Li Xian instantly understood what Zhou Wen was getting at. You mean to sell this strategy to those special admissions students who want to break records? I can give it a try. Zhou Wen felt that there was a chance. He planned on asking Wang Lu to see if she was interested in buying the strategy. Zhou Wen and Li Xian returned to Four Seasons Garden and went to Wang Lu's building to look for her. They happened to bump into Wang Lu on a small path in Four Seasons Garden. There were 4 to 5 special admissions students with Wang Lu. They looked like they had just returned and were chatting as they walked, as though they were discussing something. Zhou Li Xian, what a coincidence! Wang Lu greeted Zhou and Li Xian when she saw them. It's not a coincidence. We specially came to look for you. Is the homework mission that you special admissions students took on to kill bronze luck beasts? Zhou asked directly. That's right. What's wrong? Wang Lu looked at Zhou curiously, unsure why he was suddenly asking this. Here's the thing. Li Xian and I have studied a strategy for killing bronze luck beasts. It should be of some help to you. It can allow you to kill bronze luck beasts faster and even break records. Are you interested? Zhou said. Before Wang Lu could say a word, a male special admissions student beside her said, Zhou, we admit that your companion beast is indeed powerful. Unfortunately, we don't have a companion beast as powerful as you. Your strategy is useless against us. The strategy we studied doesn't require any special companion beast. Furthermore, companion beasts can't be used in Restriction City, Zhou said. Since no one can use companion beasts, we can also study a way to kill bronze luck beasts ourselves. Why should we spend money to buy your strategy? The boy said with a smile. Zhou finally realized that with his low EQ, he had neglected a problem. Those who could enter Sunset College were all geniuses, and the special admissions students were geniuses among geniuses. They were rather proud. To spend money to buy someone else's strategy was equivalent to admitting that they were inferior to others. How could the proud special admissions students be willing to spend money to buy it? Another female special admissions student also said, Zhou, we came to Sunset College to train ourselves. We have to personally experience overcoming difficulties to improve ourselves. Buying someone else's strategy is equivalent to cheating. It's meaningless to us. The other special admissions students probably had the same point of view. Wang Lu said, Zhou, your strategy will definitely be useful, but I still want to challenge myself. With even Wang Lu saying so, Zhou knew that his strategy was probably going to be for naught. After Li Xian and Zhou returned to their dorm, Li Xian said to Zhou, from the looks of it, this strategy will be very difficult to sell. I wonder what Counselor Wang Fei is thinking. She only gave the 2 of us the mission to kill bronze luck beasts. She didn't say anything earlier and wasted so much time researching the strategy. It's nothing. Just treat it as training and learning. Zhou didn't mind. Li Xian thought for a moment and said, by the way, you can write the strategy into a post and post it on our school's internal forum. You can set up a paid post there. Perhaps those special admissions students will be too embarrassed to buy it in front of others, but they won't have so many qualms in private. Alright, help me post it. However, the price has to be high. Such a strategy won't be worth much if it gets out, so it's best to earn as much as you can in one go. Zhou still remembered the painful experience of posting a strategy to sell, so he reminded Li Xian. But if the price is too high, it won't be easy for them to click on it, right? Li Xian said hesitantly. It's fine even if you can't sell it. It's fine as long as you don't sell it cheaply. Zhou was rather open-minded. Alright. Li Xian nodded and posted the strategy on the school's internal forum. After Li Xian was done, he saw Zhou lying on the sofa gaming again. He asked, don't you find it boring gaming all day? All you kill are ants? I don't think so, Zhou said without looking up. Stop playing. Accompany me to kill 10 bronze luck beasts and break the record. Since those special admissions students don't want to break the record, we'll break it ourselves, Li Xian said. Zhou followed Li Xian to Restriction City, and the post they posted attracted the attention of someone. The tutor of the special admissions class, Lu Jingyan, saw the post titled, A God Teaches You to Kill a Bronze Luck Beast in a Minute. Chapter 155. It wouldn't be difficult for an epic to kill a bronze luck beast within a minute. It's not impossible for a legendary to kill a bronze luck beast in such a short period of time without using a companion beast, but it's just too difficult. Lu Jingyan was originally somewhat curious and wanted to read the content of the thread, but he realized that not only was the thread chargeable, but the reading points were ridiculously high. If converted to Federation dollars, it would cost more than 20,000. Students these days really have all sorts of tricks up their sleeve. Do they want to scam money like this? Lu Jingyan shook his head slightly as he logged into the forum's administrator account. Lu Jingyan was one of the administrators of the forum. If this was really a scam thread, he needed to deal with it. He couldn't let the other students fall for it. Although he felt that Sunset College didn't have such a low IQ student, he still needed to deal with the thread as soon as possible. After logging into the administrator account, Lu Jingyan used the administrator's authority to check Li Xian's thread without spending any money. Although he felt that it was definitely a scam, he still planned on confirming it. Soon, Lu Jingyan saw the content of the thread. His expression changed drastically. He was calm in the beginning, but later, he was surprised. Finally, he was shocked. It was as though Lu Jingyan was performing a face-changing act. Is this strategy really feasible? With Lu Jingyan's understanding of Restriction City and Bronze Luck Beasts, this strategy seemed to be possible. The crux was that there were a few parts that even he didn't know if were real or fake. There was no way to confirm the authenticity of the strategy. If it really works, the person who wrote this strategy is amazing. Lu Jingyan decided to make a trip to Restriction City and personally experiment with the strategy in the strategy. If this strategy guide was real, he would use this strategy guide as teaching material and let all the special admissions students learn it well. Lu Jingyan didn't want them to learn how to kill bronze luck beasts, but to learn the strategy's thoughts and methods. The rarest thing about this strategy was the meticulous and creative design. The entire process didn't need to rely on powerful strength to resolve the problem. It all relied on positioning, restraining, and exploiting the opponent's weakness to carry out the design. If the strategy was completely realistic, even a few mortal stage experts could kill the bronze luck beast together. Such a design was truly genius. Lu Jingyan couldn't wait to head to the Forbidden City. He just wanted to quickly verify the authenticity of the strategy. However, when he entered Restriction City, he realized that someone was already killing the bronze luck beasts. The few bronze luck beasts near the city gate had already been killed. Lu Jingyan's heart stirred as he headed deep into Restriction City. Indeed, it didn't take long for him to see two students killing bronze luck beasts. When he saw the movements of the two students clearly, he immediately understood. He didn't need to experiment anymore to know that the strategy guide was real. Moreover, he already knew who posted the strategy guide. Li Xian and Zhou. Did they write that strategy together? Lu Jingyan watched from afar as the duo slew the bronze luck beast. The more he watched, the more alarmed he became. Li Xian had completely followed the steps and plans in the strategy. With his strength alone, he could easily kill the bronze luck beast. The entire process definitely didn't take more than a minute. This had already broken the school's student record. The crux of the matter was that Li Xian had completed it too easily. Furthermore, this also proved that the bronze luck beast had a huge flaw. As long as he grasped this flaw, it would be too easy to kill it. What surprised Lu Jingyan even more was Zhou. Although Li Xian was the one who killed the bronze luck beast, Zhou had been following Li Xian with a camera. He moved around the bronze beast horde and followed Li Xian's footsteps, perfectly capturing all of Li Xian's actions. It wasn't easy to keep up with Li Xian's actions, much less in Restriction City. There were many mortal stage bronze beasts and bronze birds around him. With the bronze beasts being awakened by Li Xian, Zhou would be the first target when he followed up. However, Zhou's footsteps were brisk as though he was taking a leisurely stroll. He didn't even look at the bronze beasts, but he was able to dodge all the bronze beast's attacks. The entire process was pleasing to the eye. It was so smooth that Lu Jingyan found it a visual enjoyment. Not only is this Zhou Wen powerful with his companion beasts, but his standards are also not bad. He should be more than enough to enter the special recruitment class. The more Lu Jingyan watched, the more he felt that Zhou Wen's difficulty as a videographer was higher than Li Xian's as the main character who hunted the bronze luck beast. After watching the entire process of the two hunting the bronze luck beast, Lu Jingyan secretly left Restriction City without alarming Zhou Wen and Li Xian. After returning to his office, Lu Jingyan logged onto the website again and found the thread that Li Xian had posted. Then, he clicked on it. This time, Lu Jingyan didn't use his administrator account or authority. Instead, he purchased the paid thread as an ordinary user. Since I've already paid, it shouldn't be a problem for me to use it, right? Lu Jingyan smiled slightly as he made up his mind. The special recruitment class was somewhat different from ordinary classes. If the ordinary students of Sunset College were free-range, then the students of the special recruitment class were specially groomed. There was no way to say which of the two teaching methods was better. However, the teaching method of the special recruitment class was more targeted and would produce results faster. However, this teaching method required the students to have a good foundation. This was something that ordinary students didn't have. At the same time, it required the college to invest a lot of resources, so it was difficult to promote it. Lu Jingyan planned on using this strategy as teaching content to explain it in detail to the students of the special recruitment class. However, it wasn't now. Instead, it was after the students of the special recruitment class completed their homework missions. With the pride and confidence of the special admissions students, they would definitely be very confident in their result. Some of them might even be proud of their result. However, when the time came, if they were to see this strategy and see the huge effects produced by it, he believed that it would be a very good teaching experience for them. However, before that, Lu Jingyan had to confirm that the students didn't know about the strategy in advance. Otherwise, the teaching effect would be greatly reduced. Lu Jingyan wasn't worried about the posts on the forum. With such a high price, no student would be foolish enough to buy a subscription. The only thing that needed to be resolved was the recording of Li Xian and Zhou Wen's result. From the looks of it, I need to have a good chat with Teacher Wang. Lu Jingyan decided to talk to Wang Fei and get her to temporarily suppress Li Xian and Zhou Wen's results and videos. It wouldn't be too late to announce it after he finished teaching. Chapter 156. Wang Fei had been in a good mood recently. Ever since she had assigned Zhou Wen the mission to kill the bronze luck beast, she had been in a rather good mood. "Teacher Wang, are you there?" There was a knock on the door and Lu Jingyan's voice. "Teacher Lu, what's the matter?" Wang Fei opened the door and invited Lu Jingyan in. She poured him a cup of tea and asked with a smile. "It's like this, Teacher Wang. Did you assign Zhou Wen and Li Xian a homework mission to kill the bronze luck beast?" Lu Jingyan asked directly. "Didn't I inform you about this? Did something happen?" Wang Fei looked at Lu Jingyan with some confusion. "Nothing happened. I just have something I need your help with," Lu Jingyan said. "Teacher Lu, you are my senior. After I came to school, you have helped me a lot. If there's anything you need me to do, you don't have to stand on ceremony," Wang Fei said. Lu Jingyan said, "All right, I won't stand on ceremony with you then. I hope you can temporarily suppress Zhou Wen and Li Xian's results and videos. After our class homework mission is completed, report their results and videos." "Teacher Lu, I don't understand. What do you mean?" Wang Fei was puzzled, unsure what Lu Jingyan meant. This matter wasn't difficult, nor did it involve any principles. However, Wang Fei didn't understand what Lu Jingyan meant by doing so. Lu Jingyan pointed at the computer in front of Wang Fei. "Teacher Wang, open our school's student forum and take a look at a thread titled, 'A God Teaches You to Kill a Bronze Luck Beast in a Minute.'" Wang Fei opened the forum suspiciously and found the thread that Lu Jingyan had mentioned. When she took a look, she realized that it was a paid thread. Furthermore, it was ridiculously expensive. She couldn't help but look at Lu Jingyan. Buy it and take a look. The content definitely won't make you regret the money you paid, Lu Jingyan said with a smile. Wang Fei hesitated for a moment before following Lu Jingyan's instructions. She paid for the thread and clicked on it to read the content. With this look, Wang Fei's expression was similar to Lu Jingyan's. It slowly turned into shock. After she finished reading, she immediately looked at Lu Jingyan and asked, "Is the content of this thread real?" "It's true. I've already verified it," Lu Jingyan said. "This guide was written by you, Teacher Lu. It's really amazing." Wang Fei misunderstood and thought that the guide was written by Lu Jingyan. Lu Jingyan shook his head and said, "I didn't write the thread. I also thought that it was a scam at first. I wanted to delete it, but after reading the content, I realized that it was a real strategy, and a shocking one at that. If it wasn't written by you, which other mentor would write a Bronze Luck Beast strategy guide?" Wang Fei subconsciously believed that an ordinary legendary student would definitely not be able to write such a strategy. It should have been written by a mentor. The guide wasn't written by the instructor. Lu Jingyan shook his head again. If it wasn't written by tutor, then who? As Wang Fei spoke, a bad thought seemed to appear in his mind. Lu Jingyan said, "This is why I want you to suppress Zhou Wen and Li Xian's results. This guide should have been written by either of them. I've already seen them use this method to kill the Bronze Luck Beast with my own eyes. It's 100% feasible and there won't be any problems. Therefore, I wish to teach this guide to my students. However, before that, I hope that they won't know of Zhou Wen and Li Xian's results first. I also don't wish for them to see Zhou Wen and Li Xian's videos, so I'll have to trouble you. Teacher Lu, are you sure that this thread was written by Zhou Wen and Li Xian?" Wang Fei widened her eyes at Lu Jingyan. She really couldn't accept this outcome. She originally believed that she had Zhou Wen in the bag, but she suddenly realized that the obstacle she had set up for him was useless. Furthermore, she had been feeling smug about it. There's no mistake. It was written by them. As long as you watch their videos, you will understand that other than the original author, no one can do it as well as them, especially Zhou Wen, who's the videographer. If there's a chance, I think you should head to Restriction City to take a look. The videographer's performance will be more interesting than the main character in the video, Lu Jingyan said with a smile. Teacher Lu, I'll make arrangements for you. Don't worry. I'm very sorry, but I need to head out now. Wang Fei decided to listen to Lu Jingyan's suggestion and head to Restriction City to take a look. She really couldn't believe that a fellow like Zhou Wen, who gamed all day, could write such a guide. When Wang Fei rushed to Restriction City, Li Xian was slaying the 10th Bronze Luck Beast in his mission. This was because he had spent too much time searching for Bronze Luck Beasts in Restriction City. Otherwise, the mission would have been completed long ago. Although Wang Fei didn't see the entire process and only saw the latter half of Li Xian's slaying of the Bronze Luck Beast, it was enough to shock her. It wasn't only because the guide was as real as Lu Jingyan said, but also because of Zhou Wen's movement technique during the filming. That kind of difficulty was even more difficult than Li Xian's hunt of the Bronze Luck Beast. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew the bronze beasts in Restriction City like the back of his hand, it would have been impossible for him to reach such a level. Zhou Wen's movement technique was as though he had a heavenly eye installed. He had calculated the reactions of all the bronze beasts in the vicinity. Without even looking, he could perfectly dodge all the attacks as he followed Li Xian's footsteps. Now Wang Fei finally understood why Lu Jingyan was so sure that the guide was written by Zhou Wen and company. Only someone who knew the bronze beasts so well could write such a guide. This fellow is really a genius. How did he do it? Wang Fei looked at Zhou Wen with an odd expression. Instantly, she had mixed feelings, unsure what to feel. Zhou Wen was more outstanding than she had imagined. As Zhou Wen's mentor, Wang Fei was very pleased. She was also happy for her good friend, Ouyang Lan. However, when she thought of how such a genius was addicted to games on his phone all day, the words "wasting a heavenly gift" surfaced in her mind. Zhou Wen and Li Xian didn't notice Wang Fei in the distance. After Li Xian completed his mission, it was Zhou Wen's turn to slay the 10 bronze luck beasts. This switch made Wang Fei even more certain that the guide was written by Zhou Wen. At the very least, it was his doing. When Li Xian followed up with the filming, his actions were clearly a lot more jerky. From time to time, he would have to take into account the attacks of the mortal stage bronze beasts to avoid being injured by them. He couldn't focus on filming like Zhou Wen. Chapter 157. When Wang Fei returned, she was abnormally calm. Zhou Wen's abilities and talent surprised her. Wang Fei felt that Zhou Wen's talent and ability couldn't be simply evaluated as a genius. As for Wang Fei's education career, she had never seen a student like Zhou Wen. What Zhou Wen needs is no longer repetitive and stacked-up practice. Such a student needs to be given more new things so that he can analyze and understand on his own. Wang Fei decided to return and think about it. She had never educated such a student before, so she needed to think and reflect on herself. She had to think of a way to educate a student like Zhou Wen instead of using her previous experience on him. Zhou Wen finally had a period of relatively comfortable days. After handing in the Bronze Luck Beast homework mission, Wang Fei didn't give him any more strange homework missions. Zhou Wen finally had time to game properly. Outside Tiger Cage Pass, Zhou Wen finally encountered another paper demonized general. "Let's get a companion egg to drop." Zhou Wen directed his demonized general companion beast to charge forward as he looked forward to it. He was looking forward to it. If his demonized general could fuse with the paper demonized general again, would it become a companion beast with all 3 skills? The demonized general's astral slash blade was effective against the paper demonized general, so it was easily killed. At the instant the paper demonized general's head was chopped off, a resplendent crystal dropped. A speed 18 crystal. That's not bad. Zhou Wen felt somewhat helpless. Although his chances of encountering a paper demonized general were much higher than the average person, there was no way to guarantee the drop rate. He could only try his luck. After absorbing the speed crystal, Zhou Wen's 4 stats reached 18 points. Among ordinary legendaries, it was considered the maximum. However, he was still 3 points short of Truth Listener and Banana Fairy's 21 points. Although it was only 3 points, the higher it was, the harder it was to increase it. Ordinary legendary creatures could only drop 18-point attribute crystals at most, while mutated legendary creatures could only drop 19-point attribute crystals. It was very difficult to obtain 20-point attribute crystals, let alone 21-point attribute crystals. I wonder if I can raise my stat points by cultivating other primordial energy arts like when I was at the mortal stage? Zhou Wen thought to himself. Zhou Wen thought for a moment and decided to head to Small Buddha Temple to see if the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra Stone Monument would be of any use after he advanced to the legendary stage. It had been a long time since he came to Small Buddha Temple, but the environment hadn't changed at all. Zhou Wen arrived in front of the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra and his gaze landed on the stone monument. When he looked at it again, the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra in him automatically circulated and evolved towards the legendary stage. Soon, the Small Perfection of Sutra advanced to the legendary stage without any obstacles. It was so simple that Zhou Wen suspected that he was a primordial energy art. It was not because he wasn't cultivating it, but because he was. Zhou Wen looked at the blood-colored avatar's stats and couldn't help but be taken aback. He didn't sense any special changes in his body, but the blood-colored avatar's stats had undergone a huge change. There were a total of 2 changes. Zhou Wen's legendary life providence was Sigh of the King, but it had vanished. Replacing it was a life providence named 8 Perfections Wisdom. Zhou Wen's original legendary life providence was the Sigh of the King, but the Sigh of the King had vanished. Replacing it was a life providence named 8 Perfections Wisdom. Instead, the stats that Zhou Wen had hoped for didn't increase. The 4 stats remained at 18 points. No way? Could it be that the Lost Immortal Sutra has transformed into the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra? Zhou Wen was alarmed as he hurriedly attempted to switch back to the Lost Immortal Sutra. This made Zhou Wen heave a sigh of relief. His life providence had changed back to the Sigh of the King, and his primordial energy art had changed back to the Lost Immortal Sutra. Zhou Wen switched back and forth a few times and realized that as long as he switched to the Small Perfection of Wisdom Sutra, his life providence would also change. Although his life providence had changed, Zhou Wen vaguely felt that his fundamentals hadn't changed. It was as though it was still his original life providence. Furthermore, the 2 life providences gave Zhou Wen completely different feelings. The Sigh of the King gave Zhou Wen the feeling that it was one with him, but although the 8 Perfections Wisdom was extremely close to his body, Zhou Wen had a nagging feeling that it was lacking something compared to the Sigh of the King. However, Zhou Wen could clearly sense the characteristics of the 8 Perfections Wisdom. This was similar to the feeling an ordinary person had after obtaining a life providence, unlike the Sigh of the King. Even Zhou Wen didn't know much about it. I wonder if there will be another life providence after I head to the Fire God platform to upgrade the Ancient Sovereign Sutra? Zhou Wen immediately exited the small Buddha temple dungeon and switched to the Ancient Sovereign City. He returned to the Fire God platform and looked at the Ancient Sovereign Sutra on the monument again. Similar to his previous experience, the Ancient Sovereign Sutra had automatically advanced to the legendary stage, causing Zhou Wen's life providence and primordial energy art to change. Ancient Sovereign. Zhou Wen looked at the 2 words on the life providence and understood the benefits it brought him. Zhou Wen made another trip to the Mount Laojun Instance Dungeon, but the outcome was the same. The wordless monument also gave him a life providence called Dao Body, and the primordial energy art only had 2 words: Dao Sutra. However, be it the 8 Perfections Wisdom, Ancient Sovereign, or Dao Body, although Zhou Wen could clearly sense their effects, he had an unnatural feeling. It made Zhou Wen feel as though the life providence didn't belong to him. Only the Sigh of the King made Zhou Wen feel as though he was one with it, without any sense of isolation. Could it be that those life providence and primordial energy arts aren't really mine? They're just products of the Lost Immortal Sutra? Zhou Wen had long had his suspicions, but now, his suspicions had become more real. He took out the oil lamp, and when Zhou Wen touched it again, the oil lamp, which no longer had any text, had text appear on it again. It made Zhou Wen's life providence turn into Godfiend Era, and his primordial energy art turned into Godfiend Era. Just like the previous 3 life providences, the Godfiend life providence also felt a sense of isolation, making Zhou Wen feel slightly uncomfortable. However, it was only a feeling. There were no obstacles when using it. Zhou Wen couldn't use 4 life providences at the same time. By switching his primordial energy art to 1, he could use the corresponding life providence. Different life providences augmented him differently. The 8 Perfections Wisdom had a powerful augmentation effect on his body. It was similar to Li Xian's Immortal God of Combat, greatly increasing Zhou Wen's physical strength and giving him powerful recovery abilities. The Dao Body Life Providence had a powerful augmentation effect on primordial energy, greatly increasing Zhou Wen's primordial energy recovery speed. He could recover to full primordial energy in a few seconds. The Ancient Sovereign Life Providence raised all his stats, but it mainly increased his strength. Furthermore, it made Zhou Wen's strength stat undergo some strange changes. The Godfiend Life Providence was the strangest. Zhou Wen originally imagined that it would greatly augment his speed stat, but that wasn't the case. The Godfiend Life Providence augmented all his stats, but it wasn't much. Its main effect was to give Zhou Wen the ability to fly. Chapter 158. When he had the Godfiend Life Providence, Zhou Wen didn't need to use any essence energy skills, nor did he need to borrow a winged companion beast. He could directly float in the air and run freely as though there was a staircase in the air. Every life providence had its own unique effect. Every one of them seemed very powerful, but Zhou Wen had a nagging feeling that these powers didn't belong to him. Zhou Wen was studying the effects of the essence energy arts and life providence when he suddenly heard the doorbell ring. Zhou Wen originally imagined that it was Li Xian, but when he opened the door, he saw that it was Feng Chuyan. "Why are you here?" Zhou Wen asked curiously. "Coach, I want you to customize a second cultivation plan for me," Feng Chuyan said with a firm gaze. "Didn't I say before that you have to complete the plan I customized for you before you can proceed to the next stage of cultivation?" Zhou Wen really didn't wish to lie to Feng Chuyan, so he could only find an excuse to reject him. However, before he could finish his sentence, Feng Chuyan said, "Coach, I've already mastered the slow saber realm." "What? You've mastered it?" Zhou Wen widened his eyes as he looked at Feng Chuyan in disbelief. He had only said it in passing. Although there were some insights he had gained, most of them were baseless. Feng Chuyan had actually mastered the slow saber realm based on his nonsense. This left Zhou Wen in disbelief. "I've really mastered it. I'll demonstrate it to you now." Feng Chuyan drew his saber and slashed at Zhou Wen. In the past, Feng Chuyan's saber strikes were very fast, so fast that people couldn't see it clearly. It was like a bolt of lightning, fast and agile. Now, his saber was still very fast, but it was so fast that it felt heavy. It was as though his saber had a tremendous weight on it, as though there was a mountain pressing down on it. This strike could be seen clearly. It looked very slow, but in fact, the speed of the saber was even faster than before. Raising something light as though it were heavy? Zhou Wen directly mentioned the feeling Feng Chuyan gave him. Feng Chuyan nodded and said, as expected of Coach, "Indeed, you already knew about the realm of lifting something light as if it were heavy. If not for Coach's guidance, who knows how long it would have taken for me to comprehend this realm." Zhou Wen was somewhat unable to describe his feelings at that moment. He thought to himself, "Feng Chuyan, oh Feng Chuyan, you really are a genius. What else can I say about you mastering this?" "Coach, please continue tailoring a cultivation plan for me," Feng Chuyan said to Zhou Wen solemnly with a serious expression. Without waiting for Zhou Wen to say a word, Feng Chuyan transferred a sum of money to him. It was more than 20,000 yuan, 3 times more than the fee for the first lesson. "Coach, I know you aren't doing this for this bit of money. This bit of lesson fee is a token of my sincerity," said Feng Chuyan. "I'm just doing this for this bit of money, all right?" Zhou Wen was indeed in need of money, but it was a little troublesome for him. "I've been a little busy recently. I'm afraid I don't have the time to customize a plan for you." Zhou Wen wanted to find an excuse to send Feng Chuyan away. However, Feng Chuyan immediately said, "It's fine. Coach, if you have the time, give me some pointers. If you don't have the time, I can wait." Zhou Wen looked at Feng Chuyan with a complicated expression, momentarily at a loss for words. After hesitating for a long time, Zhou Wen gritted his teeth and said to Feng Chuyan, "Feng Chuyan, it's like this. Actually, in the beginning, I only wanted to earn some of your lesson fees. What I said to you previously was all nonsense. You were able to master the slow saber realm because you have good talent and high perceptivity. It has nothing to do with me. I've let you down. I'll refund you all the lesson fees I previously charged you. Please don't mind." Zhou Wen really didn't wish to lie to Feng Chuyan and told him everything. He would rather return the money to him than continue. However, Feng Chuyan didn't believe him at all. He pressed down on Zhou Wen's hand that was about to transfer the money and said, "Coach, it's fine if you don't have the time. I can wait. If you think my talent is too poor and don't want to teach me, that's fine too. I'll stay by your side. You don't have to deliberately teach me. Just let me figure it out on my own. That's not what I meant. Zhouwen wasn't a person who was good with words to begin with. At that moment, he was somewhat tongue-tied, unsure of how to explain. Coach, there's no need to say anything. I know that a person like you cultivates very hard. You definitely squeeze every minute and second to cultivate with all your might. Otherwise, you wouldn't have improved so quickly. It's selfish of me to make you waste your time tailoring a plan for me. However, other than you, I can't tolerate other mediocre people who only know how to follow the prescribed order. Therefore, please don't reject me. I know that your time is precious, so you don't need to do anything. You just need to let me follow by your side and learn on my own. Don't worry, I won't affect your normal life. I won't disturb you when it's inconvenient. Feng Qiuyan's gaze was as firm as steel, even firmer than a nail-biter. This person is crazy. Zhouwen looked at Feng Qiuyan in shock. He realized that he had no way of explaining. I'm telling you, I really don't have anything to teach you. Are you sure you want to stay? Zhouwen said weakly. Coach, don't worry. I definitely won't disturb your cultivation, Feng Qiuyan said firmly. As long as you're happy. However, I'll say this first. I don't have anything to teach you. If you insist on staying, I won't refund the money, Zhouwen said. I don't usually use much money. I haven't used much of the pocket money my family gave me. There's about 1 million left. Coach, if you need it, take it all, Feng Qiuyan said. There's no need. Zhouwen shook his head helplessly and turned to walk back into the building. He sat on the sofa and continued gaming. Feng Qiuyan walked in and closed the door. He walked behind Zhouwen, preparing to watch him game. Do you want to watch me game too? Zhouwen put down his phone and asked Feng Qiuyan. I want to understand your entire cultivation process. Gaming is also a part of your cultivation, right? What game are you playing? I want to download one too, Feng Qiuyan said seriously. It was obvious that he wasn't joking. This is a game I developed myself. It hasn't been officially completed. It's a trade secret. Zhouwen felt like he was about to go crazy. Feng Qiuyan was clearly the one who had been cheated, but he, the cheater, felt extremely depressed. I see. Feng Qiuyan nodded and stopped watching Zhouwen game. He walked to the opposite side of Zhouwen and pulled a chair to sit down. He stared intently at Zhouwen. Zhouwen couldn't be bothered with him. He thought that he would leave when he felt bored, so he ignored him. After all, he couldn't see what game Zhouwen was playing, so Zhouwen continued gaming and grinding. Chapter 159. This time, Zhouwen was grinding Ant Nest. When he arrived at Ant City again, he switched his primordial energy art to the Tao scripture. His life providence also switched to the Tao body, greatly augmenting his primordial energy recovery. At the same time, he got the blood-colored avatar to summon Banana Fairy in her fan-like form. Seeing the swarm of black-winged flying ants rush over, he fanned at them. The dozen or so black-winged flying ants that were charging ahead were immediately sent flying. The cold wind froze their bodies into ice sculptures as they slammed into the black-winged flying ants behind them. Immediately, they shattered into broken limbs that fell to the ground. Accompanied by more than 10 notifications of black-winged flying ants being killed, a dimensional crystal dropped to the ground. Awesome, this is awesome. This is what it means to grind. Zhouwen summoned the three-eyed golden warrior, mutated demonized general, mutated lotus flower ant, and silver-winged flying ant, but he didn't let them attack. All he did was set up a defensive formation, preventing the swarm of black-winged flying ants from approaching the blood-colored avatar. The three-eyed golden warrior stood right in front, and the swarm of black-winged flying ants failed to injure its golden body. It blocked nearly half of the black-winged flying ant. The other companion beasts also used their respective powers to prevent the ant swarm from approaching the blood-colored avatar. However, there were just too many black-winged flying ants. In just a few seconds, a large swarm had gathered and was about to break through the defensive perimeter. Zhou glanced at the blood-colored avatar's primordial energy. Under the effects of the Tao body, his primordial energy had recovered to the maximum of 18 points. Without any hesitation, he slapped out again. Bam! 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 Large swaths of the ant swarm were sent flying and collided with each other, instantly shattering. Notifications of black-winged flying ants being killed flooded the screen. Under the protection of the three-eyed golden warrior and the other companion beasts, the blood-colored avatar delivered a grand wind every few seconds. The large swarm of black-winged flying ants couldn't withstand such a massacre. In less than half an hour, there were few black-winged flying ants left in the huge ant city. Zhou controlled the blood-colored avatar to charge into Ant City. All sorts of ants crawled out of their nests in a bid to attack him, but they were killed by the grand wind. There were shiny dimensional crystals everywhere on the ground, mixed with companion eggs. The spectacular scene was something Zhou had never seen before. Awesome, this is just too awesome. Zhou led the group of companion beasts in a charge, turning Ant City into a river of blood. He didn't even have the time to pick up the dimensional crystals and companion eggs that drop. Kill! 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 Zhou nearly fell into a frenzy. He killed any ants he saw. He wanted to massacre Ant City before heading to the tallest ant nest to fight the golden flying ants and snatch the ant honey inside. Zhou felt that the number of legendary creatures he had killed in less than an hour was more than the number of legendary creatures he had killed in the past. Just by looking at the dimensional crystals and companion eggs that shimmered on the ground, he knew how terrifying the number of ants he had killed was. Could it be that powerful family clans will become stronger and stronger while it's so difficult for the weak to become stronger? When one's strength reaches a certain level, it's just too easy to obtain resources, Zhou thought. As Zhou gamed crazily, Feng Qiuyan, who was sitting opposite him, kept watching him. His gaze never left him. Coach is such a hard-working person. Gaming is definitely a form of cultivation, but what's the goal of such cultivation? Although Feng Qiuyan couldn't figure out the answer, he firmly believed that Zhou had his reasons and meaning for doing so. Therefore, he continued staring at Zhou. Just as Feng Qiuyan was pondering over it, the antelope that had been sleeping on the sofa woke up. It jumped off the sofa and bleated at Zhou a few times. It meant that it was hungry and wanted Zhou to get it something to eat. However, Zhou was engrossed in the game and ignored the antelope. The antelope was extremely unhappy as it constantly stomped the ground with its hooves, as though it was doing a tap dance. Seeing that Zhou still ignored it, the antelope circled around Zhou as it cried out. It even used its head to burrow into Zhou's embrace, hoping to attract his attention and get him to prepare food for it. Zhou was already rather familiar with this antelope and knew that it typically didn't use violence. Furthermore, he had reached a critical juncture in grinding, so he ignored it. No matter how it made a fuss, he ignored it while grinding. As Feng Qiuyan watched, his eyes suddenly lit up. I understand. Coach is cultivating his mind. In such an environment, he can still focus on gaming. He isn't affected by external factors or tempted by external objects. This state of being completely focused is the best state for cultivation. I see. I understand how to cultivate next. Feng Qiuyan leaped up and bowed slightly at Zhou. Coach, I understand. I'll go cultivate now. When I can reach your realm, I'll seek your advice again. Zhou had no intention of answering as he continued gaming as though he hadn't heard him. Feng Qiuyan didn't mind as he turned around and left Zhou's building. The antelope looked at the departing Feng Qiuyan with a puzzled look. It didn't know what was wrong with that person. He was like a lunatic. Feng Qiuyan originally walked out excitedly, but as he walked, he slowed down. How do I cultivate the calm mind technique? Just as Feng Qiuyan was thinking, he saw a person walk over. On careful look, it was Li Xian. Feng Qiuyan, why are you here with Zhou? Li Xian asked in puzzlement. Feng Qiuyan's eyes lit up as he quickly walked in front of Li Xian. Without answering, he asked, Li Xian, you have the best relationship with Coach. Do you know how he usually cultivates the undistracted mind technique? What do you mean by undistracted mind? That fellow, old Zhou, is like a fool when he's gaming. He doesn't listen to anything, Li Xian said casually. That's right. When he's gaming, he does all those interference exercises. Feng Qiuyan hurriedly said. Does he even need to practice? When he's gaming, he won't be distracted at all. In the past, I even got a beautiful chick to seduce him while he was gaming, but guess what? That punk doesn't seem to see that chick at all. When that chick stops him from gaming, he slaps her to the ground and continues gaming. Li Xian's saliva splattered as he spoke. Do I have to pass the stage of sensuality first? Feng Qiuyan's eyes lit up as though he had figured out something. However, on second thought, Feng Qiuyan realized that this was Sunset College. It was impossible for him to find such a woman to practice with. Instantly, he was in a dilemma. Do you know if there are women there? The kind that are very noisy. Feng Qiuyan recalled that Li Xian had said that he had previously found a woman for Zhou, so he asked Li Xian. A very noisy woman. There really is one. When Li Xian saw that Feng Qiuyan was acting strangely, he had the thought of teasing him. When Feng Qiuyan heard Li Xian say yes, he was immediately delighted. He got Li Xian to take him there immediately. Li Xian agreed immediately and took Feng Qiuyan to Li Weiyang's club. Chapter 160. Zhou didn't know how long he had been grinding, but there were only a few ants left in the huge ant city. There was no need for him to use the Grand Yin Wind. Just the mutated demonized general was enough to easily finish them off. Looking at the dimensional crystals and companion eggs that dropped everywhere in Ant City, Zhou Wen's excitement suddenly turned to depression. The black-winged flying ant, red-armored ant, and blue-armored ant were only at the ordinary legendary stage after all. Their upper limit was 18, so the dimensional crystals they dropped were at most 18. Furthermore, there were very few of them. However, such stat crystals were useless to Zhou. Only the primordial energy crystals could replenish his primordial energy. Zhou heart bled as he watched a large number of stat crystals go to waste. However, he couldn't take out the items in-game. If he could, just selling the stat crystals he obtained from grinding would be enough for him to invest in Huang Ji's game. Zhou could only ignore the ordinary stat crystals and focus on picking up companion eggs and primordial energy skill crystals. He had reaped quite a sizable harvest this time. He had obtained 14 legendary companion eggs and 21 primordial energy skill crystals. However, most of them were duplicates. There were only 2 primordial energy skills. One was the black-winged flying ant's primordial energy skill, which Zhou had already obtained in the past. The other was something Zhou didn't have in the past. It was dropped by red-armored ants that couldn't fly. Its name was Armor Concealment Skill, and it was also a defensive primordial energy skill. The companion eggs with poor stats were fed to the pets as food. The ones with good stats were hatched first, and Zhou planned on using them for future fusion. Seeing that most of the ants in Ant City had been killed, the golden flying ant didn't come out of the nest high up. Zhou reorganized himself and replenished all his companion beasts and blood-colored avatars' primordial energy before heading for the nest at the highest point. This time, it was different from the past. Zhou had brought a large number of helpers with him. He wasn't as pathetic as before, nor were there any ant swarms attacking him. Even if I can't kill the golden flying ant, it's not bad to get some golden ant honey to drink. Zhou didn't believe that he could kill the golden flying ant with his present strength. When he came to the ant nest at the highest point, Zhou ordered the mutated demonized general and the three-eyed golden warrior to rush in. The two of them were the most resilient, especially the three-eyed golden warrior. Zhouwen planned on using them to attract the golden flying ants' attention so that he could rush in and drink the honey. Indeed, when the two of them broke through the nest's wall and charged in, they immediately attracted the attention of the golden flying ant. With a golden flash, a gigantic flying ant appeared above them. Its sharp claws slashed at the mutated demonized general's head. The mutated demonized general roared angrily as astral fist blasted out. Its body emitted a resplendent golden light as it punched the golden flying ant's claw. However, in the next second, Zhouwen saw a golden flash as one of the mutated demonized general's arms flew into the air. It had been sliced off by the golden flying ant. Damn, so strong. Zhouwen was alarmed. Without any hesitation, he controlled his remaining pets to charge at the golden flying ant. As for the blood-colored avatar, it jumped into the ant honey and gulped down mouthfuls of the ant honey. After a few mouthfuls, a notification popped up in-game that he had absorbed golden ant honey. Primordial energy +1. His original primordial energy limit of 18 had finally risen to 19. Zhouwen was ecstatic as he continued gulping down the ant honey, hoping to break through to 21 points. However, Zhouwen's stomach was already filled to the brim. He couldn't swallow any more, much less 21 points. Even the notification of 20 points didn't appear. Don't tell me that I haven't drunk enough? At that moment, Zhouwen felt a sickening sweetness in his mouth. It was as though he would spit out honey the moment he opened his mouth. He really couldn't drink any more. Elsewhere, Zhouwen's pets had been mercilessly slain by the golden flying ant other than the three-eyed golden warrior. There was a deep gash on the three-eyed golden warrior's chest. It had a golden body and invulnerable golden skill, but it was still injured to such an extent. The golden flying ant's strength was truly terrifying. Seeing the golden flying ant charge at it again, the three-eyed golden warrior had no way of dodging such a fast attack. All it could do was use a golden palm to meet it. With a crack, the three-eyed golden warrior's palm was cleaved apart as its body involuntarily flew backward, slamming into the cocoon that was floating in the middle of the ant nest. Suddenly, the golden flying ant's figure flashed and appeared in front of the gigantic cocoon as though it had teleported. It used its body to block the three-eyed golden warrior that was slamming into the cocoon. The three-eyed golden warrior slammed into the golden flying ant and bounced to the side. The golden flying ant immediately charged forward in a bid to kill the three-eyed golden warrior. Zhouwen's heart stirred as he controlled the blood-colored avatar to raise the banana fan and fan at the gigantic cocoon. An ice-cold grand wind blew over. The golden flying ant that was pouncing at the three-eyed golden warrior immediately flew back. Its body emitted a strange golden barrier that protected the gigantic cocoon. When the grand wind struck the golden barrier, it only caused it to tremble slightly. It failed to break through the barrier. In the next second, the two feelers on the golden flying ant's head emitted a terrifying golden light. Like golden lightning, it struck the blood-colored avatar and the phone screen went black. The golden flying ant is undoubtedly at the epic stage, but I wonder what's inside that gigantic cocoon? Logically speaking, it should be a descendant of the golden flying ant, but the power aura in the cocoon seems somewhat different from the golden flying ants. Although Zhouwen was puzzled, he didn't have the ability to kill the golden flying ant. He couldn't even explore the secrets of the gigantic cocoon. Unfortunately, drinking so much ant honey only increased my primordial energy by a little. I wonder if the ant honey has a limit to the increase in primordial energy or if there's some other reason. Zhouwen was just too exhausted today. After using the grand wind for a long period of time, although he still had plenty of primordial energy, he was mentally exhausted. After putting away his phone, Zhouwen saw the antelope glaring at him fiercely as though it wanted to eat him. "Brother Antelope, I'm sorry. I'll prepare food for you now." Zhouwen hurriedly slipped out of the building and prepared to eat something before bringing back some fresh vegetables for the antelope. When he reached the entrance of Four Seasons Garden, he bumped into Wang Lu and a few other special admissions students. Zhou wasn't familiar with the other special admissions students, so he only greeted Wang Lu before planning on heading to the cafeteria. A special admissions student named Li Zhuo said with a smile, "Zhou, have you sold the strategy to kill the bronze luck beast you made last time?" "No," Zhou answered and went straight to the cafeteria. He didn't have the time to chat. Chapter 161. It would be a wonder if he could sell it. In terms of companion beasts, we are indeed not as strong as him. Unfortunately, we can't use companion beasts in Restriction City. Who needs his strategy? Li Zhuo curled his lips as he watched Zhou leave. The girl beside him also said, "He thinks he's very strong just because he defeated John with his companion beast. He even wants to write a strategy to sell to students from our special classes. He's indeed a little too arrogant." Ignoring the fact that we have geniuses like Jing, Wang Lu, and Feng Qiuyan in our special classes, even the ordinary members aren't comparable to the students from the ordinary classes. If we want to write a strategy, we should be the ones writing it for them. The few special admissions students had the same thoughts. The last time Zhou wanted to sell them a strategy, they still felt a little uncomfortable. It had hurt their pride. Wang Lu frowned slightly and said, "Zhou is indeed a genius. The strategy he wrote definitely has its merit. However, we need to train ourselves, so we won't buy his strategy. However, there's no need to belittle him." Li Zhuo smiled and said, "Wang Lu, you are overthinking things. We have no intention of belittling him. We are just saying that in terms of ability, no one is inferior to him. There's no need to buy his strategy." Wang Lu could tell that Li Zhuo was being insincere, but she didn't say anything else. The few of them went to class together. The homework mission of killing the bronze luck beast had been completed. Lu Jingyan wanted to give them a summary and explanation. All the special admissions students had to attend. Lu Jingyan was in a good mood today. He didn't blame Feng Qiuyan and another student for being late. All he did was wave his hand to get them to take their seat. Curmudgeon Lu seems to be in a good mood today. He actually didn't teach the students who were late? A girl said in surprise. Li Zhuo smiled and said, "Of course he's in a good mood. Our special class homework mission was completed very well. I heard that a few people's results broke last year's special class record. From the looks of it, we can relax for a while," the girl from before said with a smile. Lu Jingyan raised his hand slightly, gesturing for the students to quiet down. Then, he swept his gaze across everyone's faces and slowly said, "Everyone has completed the homework mission of killing the bronze luck beast well. Compared to the special classes before we went, the overall standard is a notch higher. It's considered the best result in recent years." The students all applauded. Many of them seemed a little excited. They had been in school for more than a month, and this was the first time they had heard Lu Jingyan praise someone like that. Lu Jingyan waved his hand and waited for the students to quieten down before continuing. "There are a few students who performed very well this year. They broke the previous records. And Jing's 320, Wang Lu's 327, and Feng Qiuyan's 328. Such results can be said to be very outstanding." The other students looked at the three of them enviously. Although they already knew that the three of them were particularly outstanding, even in the special class, they could not help but feel a little jealous. But Lu Jingyan suddenly changed the topic and continued, "But this year's best result is not theirs. How is this possible? Who else could it be but them? Is there anyone in our class who has better grades than them? No way. Is there a hidden boss more powerful than the three of them? Impossible, right? And Jing, Wang Lu, and Feng Qiuyan are all in the top 10 of the school. Even if the other students are very strong, they don't have the ability to enter the top 10 of the school. It doesn't seem possible to have better results than the three of them." The students were in a flurry of discussion as they looked around, trying to guess who the person was. The person who obtained the best result in killing bronze luck beasts this year isn't from our special class. The moment Lu Jingyan said that, the students' discussion intensified. It was as though there was an uproar. Tutor Lu, don't tell me you're talking about a senior from the upper grades? Li Jue couldn't help but ask loudly. Lu Jingyan smiled and asked Li Jue, I'm looking at you. Who should be in first place? What's his result? I think it should be Senior Wei Guo. I reckon that if it's Senior Wei Guo, he should be able to finish within 3 minutes, Li Jue said. That's right. Wei Ji's result is 2:57. It happens to be within 3 minutes. You have a good eye, Lu Jingyan said. Li Jue said smugly, Tutor, you flatter me. I was just making a random guess. I never expected to guess it right. However, Lu Jingyan smiled. However, that's Wei Ji's results from his own practice. Furthermore, he's already a third year. He's not included in our first year's ranking. The true first place belongs to someone else. Who? Li Jue couldn't help but be taken aback. Lu Jingyan picked up a document and said, the results of this year's bronze luck beast slaying are, Zhou Wen from Counselor Wang Fei's class. Second place is Li Xian from Counselor Wang Fei's class. Third place is Jing from our class. Impossible! Li Jue cried out with a look of disbelief. This time, it wasn't only Li Jue and company. Even Jing, Wang Lu, and Feng Qiuyan's gazes turned sharp as they looked at Lu Jingyan. What's Zhou Wen's result? And Jing suddenly asked. That's a good question. You can guess what their results are, Lu Jingyan said with a smile. At most, it's a single digit faster than Jing, right? Li Jue said. It's indeed a single digit. Lu Jingyan switched on the player and projector and played a video. Take a look yourselves. Everyone looked at the big screen. And Jing, Feng Qiuyan, and company also stared at the big screen and carefully watched the video. The video was very short, less than a minute long, but after watching the video, the entire classroom fell silent. Li Jue and company broke out into a cold sweat as they stared intently at the big screen. They didn't recover from their daze for a long time. Coach is indeed a coach. His positioning is amazing and his calculations are terrifying. Are these the benefits of playing games without distractions? From the looks of it, I still need more cultivation. Feng Qiuyan's eyes burned, but he seemed to have expected it. Wang Lu was also slightly surprised. Although she had long expected Zhou Wen's results to be very good, she never expected it to be this good. It only took him 47 seconds. Zhou Wen was indeed only a single digit faster than them, but this single digit was calculated by the minute. And Jing calmly looked at the screen, but her expression was somewhat odd. It was unknown what she was thinking. Tutor Lu, is this result real? This was a strategy designed by the tutors and then executed by Zhou Wen, right? Li Jue still found it unbelievable. Unfortunately, no tutor participated in the design of this strategy. The strategy itself was written by Zhou Wen and Li Xian. I also spent money to read their paid posts on the forum. Only then did I know that there was such a method to kill bronze luck beasts. Such a train of thought and design can be said to be ingenious. To solve a problem from the perspective of a weakling, relying on intelligence and not strength, is a very rare method. Today, we will analyze the intricacies of this design and their unique train of thought in detail. I believe you will be able to learn a lot from it, especially the way they solve problems. Strength isn't the only way to solve problems. This is very important. Chapter 162. Li Xian organized another Xianwen Club event. Zhou Wen originally imagined that there wouldn't be many people. If Gu Dian didn't come, there would be at most 4 people. However, when he arrived, he realized that there were many more people than he had imagined. Fang Ruoxi and Tian Xiangdong were there, and Gu Dian was there as well. Apart from the original 5 members of the Xianwen Club, there were also Feng Qiuyan, Wang Lu, Li Weiyang, and Hui Haifeng. Li Xian chuckled and said, This club event is a joint operation between our Xianwen Club, the Weiyang Club, and the Ocean Club. Furthermore, our Xianwen Club has added 2 official members, Feng Qiuyan and Wang Lu. Zhouwen was slightly taken aback. He gamed all day and had never paid attention to the Xianwen Club's situation. Only then did he realize that Feng Qiuyan and Wang Lu had somehow been pulled into the Xianwen Club by Li Xian. The location Li Xian had reserved was Restriction City. The group of people headed for Restriction City in a grandiose manner. The Weiyang Club was made up of girls, while the Ocean Club was mostly made up of boys. Furthermore, they were all very famous problematic students in school. In addition, there were a few anomalies in Li Xian and Zhou Wen's Xianwen Club. This group of people quickly attracted the attention of the school. The first to receive the news was Wei Guo. As the president of Sunset College's student council, he sensitively believed that this matter was somewhat unusual. Perhaps it represented the direction of Sunset College's students in the future. Hui Haifeng and those fellows are actually so close to Zhou Wen and Li Xian. Wang Lu and Feng Qiuyan from the special class have large families supporting them. They haven't joined any clubs, but now they have joined the Xianwen Club. Also, that strange Gu Dian has actually joined the Xianwen Club. Could the Xianwen Club become the second Ocean Club? No, I have to see what those fellows are doing. Wei Gu quickly found a member of the student council. In the name of maintaining order and protecting the students' safety, he joined the Xianwen Club's activities and followed Li Xian and company to Restriction City. Due to the addition of the student council, the team expanded once again. There were already more than 50 people. After the group entered Restriction City, they swept through the area. The ordinary bronze beasts and bronze birds couldn't withstand the slaying of so many students. As for Feng Qiuyan, who liked to use his saber, he didn't take action this time. Instead, he was like Zhou Wen, playing games on his phone. Zhou Wen saw that Feng Qiuyan was playing a game called Men Must Last 20 Seconds. The game mode was very simple, but it wasn't easy to last 20 seconds in the game without dying. When Zhou Wen saw Feng Qiuyan playing, he had already lasted more than a minute, but he still failed to escape death. As there were too many students, and there was no lack of extremely powerful seniors among them, the originally dangerous Restriction City seemed to have become a tourist attraction. Even the bronze luck beasts were quickly wiped out. Wang Lu even specially used Zhou Wen's strategy to kill a bronze luck beast. Indeed, she easily raised her score to within a minute. Zhou Wen, I think highly of you. If you join the student council now, you have a high chance of becoming its president in the future. Consider it, Wei Gu said to Zhou Wen when they were alone. I'm fine like this. Besides, I only like gaming. I can't be a guild leader, Zhou Wen said. No one is born with it. Just learn it slowly. There's no rush to answer me. Think about it first, Wei Gu said with a smile. Upon seeing Hui Haifeng walk over, Wei Gu didn't wish to meet him and bade Zhou Wen farewell. Hui Haifeng walked to Zhou Wen's side and said with a smile, Didn't Wei Gu tell you that he thinks highly of you and wants you to join the student council and work for him? When he retires in the future, you will be the president of the student council. Zhou Wen was slightly taken aback. Although his words were a little different, the meaning was the same. Hui Haifeng said with a smile, There's no need to be surprised. That punk is just like that. He said those words to almost every member of our Ocean Club at least once. I see. Zhou Wen was enlightened. Only then did he understand why Hui Haifeng's guess was so accurate. I've seen your bronze luck beast strategy. It's really impressive. This has nothing to do with your combat strength, but your ability to plan. To be able to calculate such a shortcut in such a chaotic and complicated environment, if this ability can be used in the exploration of new dimensional zones, it can prevent many soldiers from dying, Hui Haifeng said. Do you plan on joining the military in the future? Zhou Wen asked Hui Haifeng. Hui Haifeng nodded. If there's a chance, I'll join the military. If there's no chance, I'll do something related to it. As a man, if I can't do something that leaves people dumbfounded, I feel like I've lived my life in vain. I wish you success. Although Zhou didn't think so, it didn't stop him from admiring such a person. At the very least, he had a good impression of Hui Haifeng. Everyone kept charging into Restriction City. All sorts of bronze beasts were killed, but unfortunately the drop rate of bronze beasts was just too low. Occasionally they would drop a dimensional crystal. Furthermore, their stats weren't high. As he walked forward, he suddenly felt the mysterious phone in his pocket vibrate. Zhou couldn't help but be taken aback. He had already found the tiny palm symbol of Restriction City and had long downloaded it into his phone. Why was the mysterious phone vibrating? Seeing that no one was paying attention to him, Zhou deliberately stayed at the back and took out the mysterious phone to see why it was vibrating. Just as he took out the phone's camera function automatically activated. Zhou raised his phone and looked around Restriction City. When an image appeared on the phone's screen, the camera function automatically locked onto it. A green frame appeared that locked onto the item on the screen. It was a dilapidated wall. At first glance, it didn't seem any different from the blue brick wall beside it. However, when Zhou walked to the side of the blue brick wall and touched it, he realized that the blue brick wall wasn't ordinary blue brick, but some kind of metal. The mysterious phone's camera function only locked onto the metal wall, but it didn't automatically take a picture. Nor did it lock onto any patterns. Zhou couldn't figure out what was so special about the metal wall. The metal wall was a part of a building, but it was somewhat strange. It was squarish like a miniature ancient city. The four walls were only about 10 meters wide and 3 to 4 meters tall. Zhou circled the building but didn't discover any doors or windows. The silver wings on Zhou's back flapped as he flew to the top of the building. He realized that it was sealed as well. The entire building didn't seem to have any entrances or exit. Could it be that the thing that makes the mysterious phone vibrate is inside this building and not the metal wall itself? Zhou guessed. Chapter 163. What did you discover? Wang Lu jumped up as well and sized up the building beneath her feet. This building is a little strange. There are no doors or windows around it. Furthermore, it doesn't seem to be made of ordinary bricks. It seems to be made of a special kind of bronze, Zhou said. It's indeed a little strange. Wang Lu squatted down and touched it. She nodded and said, "It's metal. It's indeed a little strange." Their actions attracted Li Xian and company. After Wang Lu explained the situation, everyone felt that the building was indeed a little strange. "All of you move aside. I'll try to see if I can smash it open." A stocky boy from the Ocean Club summoned a huge hammer and smashed it at the metal wall. The boy was at the legendary stage and was known for his strength. With the hammer transformed from a companion beast, he used a primordial energy skill to strike the wall. Even if the wall was made of metal bricks, he should have blasted open some cracks. However, not only did he fail to blast open the metal wall, but he also fell to the ground from the backlash. The hammer in his hand flew out, and his hands were dripping with blood. The webbing between his thumb and index finger had already ruptured. So hard! Everyone was alarmed. The boy's strength was famous in school. Unfortunately, his speed and other aspects were lacking, so he wasn't able to enter the top 10. In terms of strength, he was probably ranked in the top 3. For such a person to fail to damage the metal wall with a full-powered strike, the metal wall's strength was truly extraordinary. The more this was the case, the more interested everyone was in the building. Everyone used various methods, but unfortunately, they failed to see what was inside. Even Zhou used Truth Listener's ability to hear what was inside, but the building's interior seemed solid. There was no movement at all. It was dead silent, so Zhou couldn't hear anything. "That's Death City." A voice suddenly sounded. Zhou looked in the direction of the voice and saw that the person who spoke was a long-haired boy. His looks were average, and he looked refined. He had a scholarly bearing. Perhaps it was because this boy's aura was too reserved and he wasn't eye-catching among the students. Zhou didn't notice him in the beginning. Jiang Yan, you said that this strange building is called Death City? Do you know its origins? Wei Gu asked Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan was a member of the student council, but he didn't look like a core member. He was likely an ordinary member since no one had noticed him previously. During the two Zhou dynasties, humans were still at the edge of the uncivilized wilderness. Many people believed in ghosts and gods, and activities like offering sacrifices to the heavens were common. Funerals and other ceremonies were also very particular, especially for the members of the royal family at that time. During the later period of the Eastern Zhou dynasty, the king of Zhou was afraid of death, so he built the city of the dead and placed his own flesh and blood in it to show that he was already dead, in an attempt to deceive the heavens' will and escape the calamity of death. Unfortunately, fate cannot be defied. The Eastern Zhou dynasty's king still couldn't escape death in the end. A hint of mockery flashed in Jiang Yan's eyes. After a pause, Jiang Yan continued, according to the bits and pieces of historical information, Death City is made of bronze. It has no doors or households. The more everyone heard Jiang Yan's explanation, the more they felt that this strange bronze building was likely the legendary Death City. I thought it was something good, but it turns out to be a fake grave of the dead. How unlucky, a boy said. That might not be the case. Jiang Yan said indifferently, in order to deceive the ghosts and deities of the world, not only will King Zhou place his flesh and blood in Death City, but he will also bury his personal items and many treasures with him. Some brutal kings will even bury their beloved concubines alive. In order to deceive the ghosts and deities of the world, it can be said that he has gone to great lengths. In that case, there might be treasures inside? Many students' eyes lit up when they heard that. If the historical records are right, there will definitely be burial items inside. However, now that this place has transformed into a dimensional zone, there might be strange changes inside. It wouldn't be surprising even if dimensional creatures appeared inside, Jiang Yan said. Jiang Yan, do you know of any way to open Death City? Wei Gu asked Jiang Yan. This was the first time he had seen such a side to Jiang Yan. He seemed to be somewhat different from the Jiang Yan he knew in the past. Dig down along the wall to the south of Death City. If this is really the Eastern Zhou dynasty's Death City, there should be an entrance there, Jiang Yan said. Wei Gu arranged for people to dig according to Jiang Yan's instructions. After digging 7 to 8 feet deep, they saw a hole in the metal wall. After digging down for a distance, a circular hole appeared. It led all the way into Death City. However, the passageway was winding, making it impossible to see what was happening inside. Who among us is willing to go in and take a look? Wei Gu asked. I don't know if others can enter, but I want to go in and take a look. However, I don't want to be the first to enter, Li Xian said. After a short discussion, Hui Haifeng was the first to enter. The 4 clubs sent a few people in. Zhou originally didn't wish to enter, but he was pulled in by Li Xian. Soon, he heard Hui Haifeng's voice coming from the front. Come in. There's no danger inside. By the time Zhou and Li Xian climbed in, Wei Gu, Hui Haifeng, Feng Qiyan, Li Weiyang, and company were already standing in Death City. Zhou originally imagined that he would see skeletons and coffins, but after entering, he realized that there were no such things. There was only a tree in Death City. The tree was only about 2 meters tall, and its branches, leaves, and trunk were all black. However, there were many fine white lines on it. It looked like an ink painting drawn with white paper and black ink. Jiang Yan, what's going on? Didn't you say that this is some Death City that has King Zhou's bones, blood, and funerary items buried inside? Why is there only one tree? Wei Gu questioned Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan said indifferently, I've already said that those are historical records. After the dimensional storms, it's normal for there to be anomalies inside. Then do you know what tree this is? Someone asked again. I don't know, Jiang Yen answered straightforwardly. Everyone was somewhat disappointed. Even though they didn't really expect to dig out any treasures, there was only one tree inside. It made their curiosity vanish, and they were somewhat disappointed. What kind of crappy tree is this? It made us waste so much time. A member of the Ocean Club kicked the tree trunk unhappily. With this kick, the pitch-black tree swayed and suffused a blazing white color. In the blink of an eye, the black tree turned completely white. Chapter 164. The originally black tree turned snow-white in an instant, giving everyone a fright and causing them to retreat warily. However, apart from turning snow-white, there were no other changes to the tree, nor did anything dangerous happen. After a while, the white tree gradually turned back to black, as if nothing had happened. This tree is a little strange. It's clearly a black tree, so why did it suddenly turn white? Li Xian was extremely curious as he held a wooden stick and poked the black tree a few times. However, the black tree remained black. It didn't undergo any changes. Zhou Wen aimed the mysterious phone at the black tree and the camera function automatically locked onto the black tree. Clearly, this was the tree that had caused the mysterious phone to vibrate. After pressing the camera button, the phone immediately entered the loading interface. Many people were using their phones to illuminate and take pictures of the black tree, so Zhou Wen's actions didn't appear out of place. As there was no danger, someone boldly shook the black tree with his hand. In the next second, the black tree turned into a ruby color. It was like a gem tree that shimmered with a mesmerizing glow. The person who shook the tree was a girl. This scene gave her a fright as she hurriedly retreated. Just like before, there was still no danger. The red gem tree gradually lost its luster and soon returned to its pitch-black state. This tree is really strange. Li Xian seemed to think of something as he carefully shook the black tree. Indeed, the black tree changed color again, but it was different from the previous few times. This time, the black tree turned golden again. It seems that different people touch this tree, causing it to change colors, Li Xian said. Let me give it a try. Everyone was very curious as they attempted to shake the black tree. Indeed, just as Li Xian had said, different people would cause it to change into different colors when they touched it. Even if it changed into red, the red color itself was different. Old Zhou, give it a try too, Li Xian said to Zhou Wen. There's no need. I don't like taking risk. It's best you don't touch it. Zhou Wen shook his head in rejection. Before figuring out what the black tree was, he wasn't willing to touch it. The phone was still loading, and the loading speed seemed to be much slower than before. After playing for a while, they saw that the black tree had no other functions other than changing its color, so they felt a little bored. Because there was nothing else here, everyone left Death City and continued to explore Restriction City. The mysterious phone kept showing a loading screen. Even after the event ended and they left Restriction City together, the loading was still not completed. Due to the loading screen, Zhou Wen wasn't able to game. After returning to his dorm, he took a rare early nap. Ever since he advanced to the legendary stage, the feeling of being possessed didn't appear again. Zhou Wen had a rather good sleep. When he woke up the next morning, he washed up and had breakfast. When he opened the mysterious phone again, he realized that the download had been completed. There was an additional tree-shaped icon on the desktop. However, the cartoonish icon looked a little different from the black tree. Below it were the words, Dead Man Tree. Zhou Wen was somewhat curious, unsure why this tree had an instance dungeon. He immediately clicked on the tree's icon. After the program started, the image turned black. In a dark space there was a tree. The tree was also a black tree, but in that dark space the appearance of the tree could be clearly seen. Apart from its appearance being a little cartoonish, it was the black tree they had seen in Death City. The blood-colored avatar stood in front of the black tree, but apart from the black tree, There was nothing around it. Zhou was momentarily at a loss as to what the instant's dungeon meant. Summoning the silver-winged flying ant, he made it fly towards the black tree and attack it. The magical needle stabbed the black tree, but it failed to penetrate, nor did it damage the black tree at all. The tree didn't react at all as it continued standing silently in the darkness. Zhou hesitated for a moment before deciding to let the blood-colored avatar personally touch the tree to see if there would be any abnormal changes. However, what puzzled Zhou was that, after the blood-colored avatar touched the black tree didn't change in color. It remained pitch black, no different from before. That's strange. Why isn't it changing color? Zhou remembered that when everyone touched the black tree in Death City, the black tree's color changed. There had never been such a situation. Is it my problem, or is it the game's problem? Zhou was momentarily unsure what the tree was for, nor did he understand what the instant's dungeon was for. All he could do was ignore it for the time being. After exiting the game, he logged into another instant's dungeon to grind. Now, there were only two types of monsters that Zhou wanted to grind. One was a mutated legendary. Only a mutated legendary could drop a stat crystal with more than 18 points. It was useful to Zhou. The other was an epic creature. An epic creature could drop a stat crystal with more than 20 points. It was similarly useful to Zhou. However, epic creatures were too powerful. Zhou wasn't a match for the few epic creatures he encountered in-game, so all he could do was seek out mutated legendary creatures to kill. In a room in Luoyang's family, and Tianzhua returned to the family. Tianzhua, has the situation around Luoyang been very bad recently? Ouyang Lan asked worriedly. It's not bad. Apart from the Chiha River being a little troublesome, there aren't many problems elsewhere. And Tianzhua said with a smile, Mom, don't worry. As long as I'm in Luoyang, I won't let those dimensional creatures invade Luoyang. Ouyang Lan nodded slightly and sighed. The Holy Land qualification battle is about to begin. I won't be at ease letting Zhou go alone. Why don't we get Ah Sheng to accompany him? Mom, are you really going to let Zhou go? Aren't you going to reconsider? And Tianzhua frowned. Ouyang Lan shook her head and said, I know what you're thinking, but little Jing has a congenital illness. If something happens to her while accepting the special physique, it would be too terrifying. I don't want little Jing to take any risk. Do you understand? Understood. And Tianzhua added, however, I believe little Jing can do it. There's no need to talk about this anymore. I've already made my decision. Furthermore, the name has already been changed to Zhou. There's no way to change it. Ouyang Lan stopped Tianzhua from continuing, and Tianzhua fell silent. Although he didn't agree with Ouyang Lan's decision, he wouldn't go against her wishes. He had always been a very filial son. Ouyang Lan sighed softly. Besides, Zhou might not be willing to go. He doesn't have any blood relationship with the two of you, but his temper is surprisingly similar. He's so stubborn. It's different. He's stubborn, but we are confident, and Tianzhua said with his head held high. Ouyang Lan only looked at Tianzhua with a smile without a word. Chapter 165. And Jing curled into a ball and leaned against the corner of the wall, enduring the pain that felt like a knife was twisting her body. Why aren't the people who can cultivate the sun strafe art cherished? Why do I have to endure such pain just to cultivate the sun strafe art? Why is the heavens so unfair to me? And Jing thought of Zhou amidst the pain as she gritted her teeth. It was as though the pain in her body had lessened. She had a congenital illness, so she couldn't cultivate a primordial energy art like the sun strafe art. However, if she couldn't cultivate it, she wouldn't be able to obtain the special physique she needed. In the Holy Land there were several special physiques. The special physiques everyone could obtain were different, but one had to have the corresponding strength attribute to obtain the corresponding special physique. The special physique Jing wanted was the sun god body. If she could cultivate the sun strafe art and stand out, she would have an 80% chance of obtaining the sun god body. However, the sun strafe art was incompatible with her body's attribute. When she cultivated the sun strafe art, it would trigger a congenital illness in her body. Every time she cultivated, she would feel excruciating pain. And Jing didn't give up because of this. Even though Ouyang Lan had forbidden her from cultivating the sun strafe art, she still persisted in secret. Even Ouyang Lan believed that Jing had advanced to the legendary stage with another primordial energy art. She never expected that Jing had endured immense pain to advance to the legendary stage with the sun strafe art. However, Jing hadn't told anyone about this. Even Tianzhua didn't know about it. After completing the cultivation of the sun strafe art, the pain in Jing's body gradually vanished, allowing her complexion to improve. After taking a shower and changing into a clean set of clothes, Jing walked out of her dorm and came to the door next door. After a moment of hesitation, her eyes turned resolute as she pressed the doorbell to Zhou Wen's dorm. "What's the matter?" Zhou Wen opened the door and asked in puzzlement when he saw Jing standing outside. "Do you still remember our 3-month agreement?" Jing said calmly. "I don't remember." Zhou Wen shook his head. That was just her wishful thinking. He had never agreed to a 3-month agreement. "It doesn't matter if you remember or not. Although it hasn't been 3 months since you've advanced to the legendary stage and have so many powerful pets, it's a fair battle between us. It's time for us to come to an end," Jing said. "I'm not interested in that special physique spot. If you want it that badly, I can go with you to meet Sislan. Let me convince her to return the qualification to you," Zhou Wen said. Jing looked at Zhou Wen and suddenly felt extremely aggrieved. She had risked her life to obtain the qualification, but it didn't matter to Zhou Wen. All of a sudden, Jing's fighting spirit vanished without a trace. "So what if you defeat Zhou Wen? So what if I prove that I'm better than him? I still can't go to the Holy Land and obtain the sun god body." Jing felt as though everything was meaningless. Without looking at Zhou Wen again, she quietly turned around and left, looking a little dazed. What a strange person. Zhou Wen found it odd when he saw Jing leave. However, since Jing had automatically given up on finding trouble with him, it was naturally for the best. Zhou Wen, bad news. Just as Zhou Wen was about to close the door and return to his room to continue gaming, he saw Li Xian run over, panting. "What's wrong?" Zhou Wen asked with a frown. "Something happened. Something big happened," Li Xian said breathlessly. "Someone died in our school. A few students died." "Did they die in a dimensional zone?" Zhou Wen asked. "No, they died in school. Furthermore, the few people who died were people who followed us to Restriction City yesterday. Furthermore, those people had entered Death City before, including Wang Lu," Li Xian said with an odd expression. "Wang Lu is dead? How did they die?" Zhou Wen was alarmed when he heard that. "I don't know." Li Xian shook his head. "How can you not know?" Zhou Wen frowned slightly. "I heard from the school's leaders that they haven't found the cause of their deaths, nor do they know how they died. A few of them were walking when they suddenly fell to the ground and died. They didn't breathe or have a heartbeat, so the cause of death can't be determined. Wang Lu was about the same. She was reading in the library when she suddenly fell to the ground and died. There were no signs of it. The school and the military are investigating the cause of their deaths, but there's still no conclusion." With that said, Li Xian's face revealed a look of horror. What's even more terrifying is that they died at the same time. Furthermore what? Zhou Wen knew that Li Xian must have discovered something important. And if I remember correctly, the few people who died all touched that black tree. Coincidentally, when they touched the black tree turned red. Li Xian gulped and continued, "I don't know if this has anything to do with their deaths, but it's too much of a coincidence. Did you tell Counselor about this?" Zhou Wen had an ominous feeling. "I did. The school has already sent people to Restriction City and found the bronze building. However, after entering, they didn't see the black tree. There's nothing inside, not even a leaf. It's as though such a tree never existed there. When Li Xian said that, his body trembled slightly. Clearly, he was feeling a little afraid. Let's go. Take me to see Wang Lu and company's corpses, Zhou Wen said through gritted teeth. The military has already taken over this matter. The corpses are also in the hands of the military. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult for us to enter, Li Xian said. Take me there first, Zhou Wen said as he switched on the mysterious phone and clicked on the dead man tree icon. After loading the game, Zhou Wen's heart chilled when he saw the dead man tree. He saw that the originally black dead man tree was now crystalline red, as though it was carved from rubies. It emitted a strange red glow. The deaths of Wang Lu and company are indeed related to this dead man tree. Now that the tree has turned red and Wang Lu and company are dead, if the fruit tree turns into another color, will the students who touched the dead man tree and caused it to turn into the same color die as well? The ominous feeling in Zhou Wen's heart intensified. Now, he only wanted to see the corpses of Wang Lu and company as soon as possible. He wanted to know what their deaths were related to the dead man tree and if there was any possibility of saving them. When Enjing heard their conversation, she subconsciously followed them. Under Li Xian's lead, the three of them quickly arrived at the school's military encampment. The corpses of Wang Lu and company are inside, but even if Counselor comes, he definitely won't be able to enter without the military's orders, much less us, Li Xian said as he pointed at the door guarded by soldiers. Chapter 166. Enjing, can you take us in? Zhou Wen cast his gaze at Enjing. At that moment, he couldn't care less. Now, Zhou Wen was afraid that the military had already dissected the corpses. When that happened, everything would be over. Sure, but I have a condition, Enjing said after some thought. I agree to fight you. Take me in immediately, Zhou Wen immediately said. I didn't say I wanted to fight you. Take me in immediately, Zhou Wen immediately said. Then what do you want? Zhou Wen frowned. I haven't thought about it yet. Just treat it as you owing me a condition. I'll tell you when I've thought about it. After Enjing said that, she didn't wait for Zhou Wen's urging as she walked straight to the door. Hello, please show me your identification. The two soldiers guarding the door clearly recognized Enjing, but after bowing, they kept her outside and didn't let her in. Enjing seemed to know that this would happen, so she didn't have any special reaction. She took out an identification from her pocket before the soldiers let her in, allowing Enjing to lead Zhou Wen and Li Xian into the encampment. After Enjing asked where the corpses were placed, she walked over. She was clearly no stranger to the military encampment. Zhou Wen was somewhat glad that Enjing was here. Otherwise, with the encampment being so huge, it wouldn't be easy for him and Li Xian to find the corpses even if they could enter. As Zhou Wen walked, he looked at his phone. He saw 5 flower buds bloom on the dead man tree that shimmered with a red glow. The flower buds also looked like they were carved from rubies. They were even more resplendent and emitted an evil aura. Through the ruby-like petals, one could vaguely see something inside that resembled a beating heart. How many dead students are there? Zhou Wen asked. 5, Li Xian thought for a moment before answering. Zhou Wen was almost certain that the deaths of Wang Lu and company were related to the 5 flowers on the dead man tree. However, Zhou Wen didn't know what the 5 flowers meant, nor did he know what to do. All he could do was wait until he saw the corpses of Wang Lu and company. In the morgue, Deputy Governor Qin Wufu and a few epic experts stationed at Sunset College were listening to the medical examiner's report. There are no obvious wounds or symptoms on the outside. There's nothing through X-ray either. Now we can only dissect them and see the results, said Yanjun. No, we can't dissect them. An epic expert immediately denied Yanjun's suggestion. His tone was very firm. No, we can't dissect them. An epic expert immediately denied Yanjun and said with a firm tone. The Wang family's daughter died here for no reason. If we dissect her body, how are we going to explain it to the Wang family when they come? The epic warrior from before said, "We can't dissect Wang Lu's corpse. We can dissect the other 4 corpses first." "That can't do. That." The epic expert one said, "You can't dissect it." Qin Wufu denied Yanzhen's words. "I do," and said one. Jin. I one, comma I yen. Ren. 1 I 1, I am. I T 1. Yen. Jin. Yanzhen laughed when he heard that. "Deputy Governor, if we don't dissect them now, we won't be able to find the reason for their current state. Then, what's the difference between them and the dead? Now, we only need to dissect the other 4 students to find the reason. Perhaps we can save Wang Lu. This is the best choice now, right?" A few epic officers also felt that this plan wasn't bad. If they could save Wang Lu, their troubles would be reduced greatly. Wang Lu has to be saved. The others have to be saved as well, Qin Wufu said as he stared at Yanzhen. "Please forgive me for being powerless," Yanzhen said indifferently. "All of you can leave. I'll have a few words with Dr. Yen alone." Qin Wufu waved his hand and got everyone to leave the morgue, leaving only him and Yanzhen inside. At that moment, Qin Wufu stared at Yanzhen and said coldly, "Yanzhen, I know you can save them. You want to dissect them because you want to know what kind of power made them like this. Deputy Governor, you think too highly of me. I'm only a doctor, not a god. I don't even know what kind of injuries they suffered, so how can I save them?" Yanzhen nudged his glasses and said without a change in expression, "What conditions do you want to save them?" Qin Wufu frowned. Yanzhen stared at the 5 corpses and licked his lips as he said indifferently, "There's no condition. Dissect 4 and save 1. They are living people, not your experimental subject." Qin Wufu's face revealed anger. "If I save them, they are living people. If I don't save them, they will be dead people. Using dead people as experimental subjects isn't a big deal even in the peaceful era of the past, much less now." Yanzhen's tone made it seem as though he was speaking of something that was only natural. Qin Wufu's face was livid with anger. If he didn't know Yanzhen and his past, he would probably have taken out his gun and killed the despicable fellow in front of him. However, he couldn't do that now. The only person who could save these 5 students was Yanzhen. Suppressing the anger in his heart, Qin Wufu said coldly, "Save these 5 students. I will apply to let you use the corpses of dead soldiers for experiment." "No, I want these 4 experimental subjects." Yanzhen decisively rejected Qin Wufu, as though there was no room for negotiation. "Isn't using the corpses of dead soldiers for experiments what you always wanted? If you miss this opportunity, you definitely won't have a second chance. Is it worth it to give up just to dissect these 4 students?" Qin Wufu said as he stared at Yanzhen. "It's worth it. These 5 people are in a very strange state. Dissecting them might be of great help to my research. I want to see what kind of power is at work," Yanzhen said. "I definitely won't give you this chance," Qin Wufu said angrily. "You have no choice. If I don't save them, Wang Lu will die as well. Deputy Governor Qin, choose for yourself whether you want Wang Lu to die with the 4 of them or let the 4 of them die and Wang Lu live." Yanzhen looked at Qin Wufu with certainty, as though he was certain of Qin Wufu's victory. Qin Wufu stared intently at Yanzhen, wishing he could kill this bastard. However, he knew that it was useless even if he killed Yanzhen. Yanzhen definitely wouldn't give in until he achieved his goal. It was the same even if he killed him. Furthermore, even Wang Lu couldn't be saved if he killed Yanzhen. Just as Qin Wufu was about to compromise, he suddenly heard the door to the morgue open. He couldn't help but be enraged as he shouted coldly, "Get out! Who allowed you in?" Chapter 167. Uncle Qin. And Jing looked at the angry Qin Wufu and was somewhat curious as to who could anger him to such an extent. Although Qin Wufu's name had the word martial in it, he wasn't a person who was easily angered. The last time Jing saw him angry was a memory from her childhood. The reason why Qin Wufu was angry wasn't because he couldn't save the 4 students. If there was really no way to save them, Qin Wufu wouldn't be angry even if the entire army was wiped out in the war, much less the deaths of 4 students. He didn't want to affect his judgment. However, now that he had a way to save them, he could only watch helplessly as the 4 students died. Furthermore, they died at the hands of his own forensic doctor. This was something Qin Wufu couldn't accept. "Little Jing, why are you here?" Qin Wufu's expression turned much warmer when he saw Jing. "Uncle Qin, we want to see the corpses of those 5 students." Jing directly explained her intentions. Qin Wufu said, "What's there to see about corpses? Little Jing, take your classmates to my office first. After we're done here, Uncle Qin will catch up with you." "Governor Qin, the 2 of us are the same as them. We have once entered the bronze building in Restriction City and touched that tree that can change color," Zhou said as he stepped forward. Qin Wufu said, "The military has already sent people to investigate the situation you reported. There is indeed such a bronze building in Restriction City, but there's no tree inside. So many of us students saw that tree. It can't be that so many people saw it wrongly, right?" Li Xian said. "I'm already aware of this matter. I'll send people to continue investigating. There's still something that needs to be dealt with here. Go wait outside." Qin Wufu only wanted to quickly convince Yanzhen to save the 5 students. "Governor Qin, when Wang Lu and company touched the tree turned red. Then, they died in a bizarre manner. There were more than 10 other students. When they touched the tree turned into another color. Now that Wang Lu and company were dead, would the other students also die mysteriously one day? If we don't figure out the problem with Wang Lu and company, more students might die," Zhou said. When Yanzhen heard this, he smiled and said, "This student is right. If we don't figure out the cause of their deaths now, more people will die. I'm dissecting them now to prevent more students from dying. It's best you make a decision quickly." "You can't dissect it," Zhou said before Qin Wufu could answer. After seeing the corpses of Wang Lu and company, he was even more certain that the 5 of them hadn't really died. After approaching their corpses, the 5 flower buds in-game became even more resplendent and showed signs of blooming. Qin Wufu, Yanzhen, and even Jing and Li Xian looked at Zhou in puzzlement, unsure why he was so excited. Zhou knew that he could only take a gamble. It was impossible for Qin Wufu to listen to a student's empty words. Furthermore, Zhou didn't know what was going on, so how could he convince Qin Wufu? Therefore, he could only take a gamble. If he could revive one of them, Qin Wufu would naturally not agree to dissect their corpses. "I don't think they're dead yet. We shouldn't dissect them," Zhou said as he pointed at Wang Lu and company's corpses. Qin Wufu was slightly taken aback as he couldn't help but size up Zhou. He had been fighting all his life and was used to seeing dead people. Coupled with the primordial energy art he cultivated, he could sense that Wang Lu and company weren't really dead. A student like Zhou was at most at the legendary stage. It surprised Qin Wufu that he could tell that Wang Lu and company weren't dead. "What's your name? Why do you say that they aren't dead yet?" Qin Wufu asked Zhou. Zhou didn't answer the first question and directly said, "I saw that tree with them. Furthermore, my senses are much sharper than the average person's. I can sense that they have the tree's aura on them. The tree's aura suppresses their own auras, which is why they're faking their deaths. If I can remove the tree's aura, they might be able to come back to life." "Can you really sense their auras?" Qin Wufu couldn't help but size up Zhou as he thought even more highly of him. From his point of view, the aura Zhou was talking about was likely vitality. Vitality was something that couldn't be seen or touched. Only people who cultivated some special primordial energy arts or had special abilities in this area could sense it. Zhou Wen could actually sense the existence of vitality. Although Qin Wufu didn't know if it was real, it matched Wang Lu and company's current situation. Yes. Zhou Wen nodded. I already know about the situation you mentioned. I'll think of a way to save your classmates. Go back first. Although Qin Wufu thought highly of Zhou Wen, he didn't think too much of it. He only believed that Zhou Wen's senses were sharper. Zhou Wen knew that it was impossible for a student like him to convince Qin Wufu with empty words. Furthermore, he didn't have any plans to save Wang Lu and company. As he turned around and prepared to leave, Zhou Wen took out his phone to take a look. At the same time, he ordered the blood-colored avatar to slash at one of the flowers. Zhou Wen was originally somewhat hesitant about whether he should sever the flower buds. After all, it was risky. If he severed the flower buds and ended up harming Wang Lu and company, it would be equivalent to Zhou Wen killing them. However, the military clearly didn't have any good solutions. There was a high chance that they would be dissecting them. If they dissected them, they would definitely die. It was better for Zhou Wen to give it a try himself. At the very least, there was a chance of survival. Through the blood-colored avatar's perception, Zhou Wen tried his best to sense the 5 flower buds on the tree. He could vaguely sense that the auras in the 5 flowers were somewhat different. They corresponded to the 5 corpses on the bed. Zhou Wen roughly determined which flower bud belonged to Wang Lu. Then, he got the blood-colored avatar to slash at another flower bud with astral slash blade. Most people would subconsciously prioritize protecting people who were closer to them. To be able to prioritize protecting strangers or treat everyone equally was a saint. Zhou Wen wasn't a saint, so he chose an unfamiliar classmate as his first experimental subject. When the sharp blade-like astral slash blade slashed at the flower bud and leaves only swayed a few times without being severed. Zhou Wen's heart tightened. Astral slash blade was already considered one of his stronger offensive primordial energy skills. If even astral slash blade couldn't injure the flower bud, it was unlikely that other primordial energy skills would be effective. Although the blade beam failed to sever the flower bud, the corpse on the bed suddenly moved as though it had come back to life. It sat up straight. Chapter 168. The few of them jumped in fright as they looked at the corpse. It was the corpse of a male student. But in the next second, the corpse fell back onto the bed, not moving at all. Yan Zhen immediately went forward to check. Qin Wufu also walked to the bed and stared at the corpse, hoping for a turn for the better. He didn't have the mood or time to bother with Zhou Wen and company. Zhou Wen and company stopped in their tracks and stood by the side to watch the situation on the bed. Zhou Wen stood at the back against the wall and continued controlling the blood-colored avatar to summon Banana Fairy. Banana Fairy held the banana leaf and fanned it at the flower buds on the tree. The grand Yin wind immediately swept over, causing the branches and leaves to sway violently. However, that was all. It failed to blow the flower buds off the tree. Instead, the corpse began to tremble as though it had come back to life. It looked extremely terrifying. Zhou Wen's expression turned nasty when he saw that even the grand Yin wind couldn't blow the flower bud off. He knew that it would be difficult for him to cut off the flower bud today. Unwilling to watch Wang Lu and company die, Zhou Wen had no choice but to summon his pets and attack the flower bud one after another. It was a last-ditch effort. How did this happen? The boy's corpse kept shaking. Yan Zhen used several methods, but he failed to detect what had happened, nor could he make the boy stop shaking. Qin Wufu couldn't help but frown when he saw that Yan Zhen seemed helpless. Not only was Yan Zhen's medical skills superb, but the primordial energy art he cultivated, his life providence, and life soul were related to this aspect. He almost had the ability to revive the dead. Now that even he was helpless, it was clear that things had turned for the worse. Zhou Wen watched as his pets attacked the flower bud one by one, but it was completely ineffective. Just as he was feeling disappointed, he saw Truth Listener's figure flash and appear in front of the flower bud. With a swipe of its claws, it plucked the flower bud off. He couldn't help but be delighted. The moment the flower bud was plucked, the boy, who had been trembling nonstop on the bed, suddenly sat up. His eyes, which had been tightly shut, suddenly opened. What are you trying to do?" The boy immediately shouted when he saw Yanjun about to stab him with a needle. At the same time, he jumped off the bed. "Yanjun, stop!" Qin Wufu was overjoyed. At the same time that he stopped Yanjun, he subdued the boy and quickly checked his body. Then, he realized that other than being a little weak, the boy was no different from a normal person. Zhouwen also observed the boy. Seeing that he was indeed fine, he got Truth Listener to pluck another flower bud from the tree. The flower bud was easily plucked by Truth Listener. This time, Zhouwen felt a lot more relaxed. He immediately saw the game system's notification: obtained immature dead man flower. As the flower bud was plucked, another classmate was revived, delighting Qin Wufu greatly. Li Xian was also overjoyed. He had also touched the dead man tree and had always been afraid that he would die like them. Now that he saw them alive again, a huge weight was lifted off his chest. Zhouwen waited for a while, and seeing that the student was fine, he got Truth Listener to pluck the other flower bud. The flower buds were plucked one by one as the students revived one by one. Wang Lu was the last to wake up. She looked around blankly, unsure of what had happened. Everyone was overjoyed. Only Yanjun frowned as he sized up the 5 students, his face filled with doubt. Qin Wufu called the other medical staff and got them to do a detailed examination of the 5 students. The results were normal, but their bodies were a little weak and needed nourishment. Seeing that they were fine, Zhouwen heaved a sigh of relief before leaving with Li Xian. "Yanjun, it looks like you'll be disappointed this time," Qin Wufu said to Yanjun in a good mood before leaving with Njing. However, Yanjun ignored Qin Wufu. All he did was look at the examination results of the 5 students and fall into deep thought. How can this be? Their bodily functions had obviously stopped working, so why were they able to recover without any external help? Yanjun carefully recalled the entire process. The anomaly of the 5 corpses seems to have happened after the 3 students came here. Could it be that this has something to do with the 3 students? Zhouwen's face flashed across Yanjun's mind. Although there were 3 of them, Yanjun had the deepest impression of Zhouwen. Perhaps it was because Zhouwen had said that Wang Lu and company weren't dead, or perhaps it was Yanjun's intuition. The more Yanjun thought about it, the more he felt that this matter had something to do with Zhouwen. That's interesting. Is this an unconscious action, or did he do something? The corners of Yanjun's mouth curled up as though he had thought of something interesting. Yanjun was more inclined to the latter as he thought to himself, they have all come into contact with that tree. Could it be that they will influence each other? From the looks of it, there's a need for further research. After Zhouwen returned to his dorm, he took out the mysterious phone and looked at the 5 ruby-like flower buds in Truth Listener's hand. Dead man flower, flower condensed from souls, immature. Zhouwen studied it for a while and realized that the 5 flowers wouldn't disappear, nor could they be absorbed. They didn't seem to be of any use. From the looks of it, they were plucked before they matured. That's why they became like this. If the dead man flower matures, what will happen? Zhouwen couldn't guess. Just as Zhouwen was considering how to deal with the 5 flower buds, he saw Truth Listener gesturing as though it had something to tell him. At the same time, Truth Listener's thoughts were transmitted over. The thought was very vague and didn't allow Zhouwen to sense any clear information. However, he could vaguely tell that Truth Listener wanted to eat the 5 flower bud. Since there was no point in keeping them, Zhouwen agreed. Truth Listener was overjoyed as it opened its mouth and swallowed a flower. Zhouwen suddenly thought of something and hurriedly stopped Truth Listener from continuing devouring the flower buds. Then, He made a phone call and confirmed that the 5 students were fine. Only then did he relax and let Truth Listener devour the remaining flower bud. After Truth Listener's tiny body devoured 5 flower buds, it still looked like it hadn't had enough. Zhouwen didn't relax as he kept paying attention to the dead man tree's situation. Only after midnight did the red dead man tree gradually change color. However, it didn't return to black, but golden. Zhouwen remembered that when Li Xian touched the dead man tree, it had turned golden. He hurriedly called Li Xian. The phone kept ringing, but no one picked up. A few more buds grew out of the dead man tree. Chapter 169. Zhouwen kept calling Li Xian, but no one answered. As for the few sprouts, they gradually grew and took the form of flower bud. Without any hesitation, Zhouwen summoned Truth Listener and plucked the few sprouts. He called Li Xian again, and this time, the call went through. "Old Zhou, what's the matter in the middle of the night?" Li Xian's sleepy voice sounded from the phone. "I called you more than 10 times. Why didn't you answer?" Zhouwen asked. "That's impossible, right?" As Li Xian spoke, he looked at his phone. Indeed, there were more than 10 missed calls. He was immediately given a fright. "Strange, my phone is by my pillow. How can I not hear it?" Cultivators had very sharp senses. No matter how soundly they slept, it was impossible for them not to be woken up by the ringing of their phones. "Perhaps you've been too tired recently. Continue sleeping. I'm going to sleep too." Zhouwen was now certain that Li Xian had been in a state of suspended animation, just like Wang Lu. Ignoring Li Xian's thoughts, Zhouwen hung up and looked at the mysterious phone. He saw that Truth Listener had already swallowed the few flower buds and was still licking its lip. For the next few days, Zhouwen didn't gain much. He stared at the dead man tree every day. As long as it changed color and grew flower buds, Zhouwen would get Truth Listener to pluck the flower buds and eat them. As a result, there were no more strange deaths in the school. At most, there were rumors of people suddenly fainting and waking up very quickly. It wasn't until the 8th day that the dead man tree returned to its original black color. There were no other changes. Only then did Zhouwen heave a sigh of relief. However, on second thought, Zhouwen felt that it was a pity. Up to now, he still didn't know what changes the flowers would undergo if they truly matured. Now that this tree exists on the phone, no one can see it again, much less touch it. "I'm afraid I won't have a chance to see the scene of the flowers truly blooming." Zhouwen felt a little regretful as he thought to himself, if only this tree could be taken out again. In the future, I'll plant it in front of whoever offends me. Those people don't know how powerful the dead man tree is. If they touch this tree, 1 will die. 2 will die. How great would that be? Zhouwen only had this thought. The dead man tree had already entered the game, so it was impossible for him to take it out again. "Coach, are you free now?" Feng Qiuyan, who he hadn't seen in days, suddenly came to Zhouwen's dorm. Zhouwen felt a headache when he saw him, but he couldn't chase him away. All he could do was reply, "I'm gaming all day today, so I don't have much time." Feng Qiuyan didn't mind as he continued, "Coach, I've already made some progress in the way you taught me. I hope you can test the results of my recent cultivation." Zhouwen wore a puzzled look. He didn't remember when he had taught Feng Qiuyan the way to calm his mind. Furthermore, this fellow had actually mastered it. How? Zhouwen couldn't say that he hadn't taught them anything. "I only know how to use a saber." "Coach, please spar with me and see if there's anything I can improve on." "Treat it as my 3rd lesson," Feng Qiuyan said as he transferred 20,000 yuan to Zhouwen. Zhouwen originally wanted to say that he didn't have the time to spar with him, but when he saw that he could accept 20,000 yuan, he swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He had no reason to reject it since he could get 2,000 yuan from a spar. After arriving at the school's special training hall with Feng Qiuyan took a rubber saber used for practice and said to Zhouwen, "Coach, what weapon do you like to use?" "I won't be using a weapon." Zhou had never really practiced any weapon-type combat skills. Although he could use a sword or saber if given to him, he only had the authority to swing it with brute force. There wasn't much technical content, so he might as well not use it. "Coach, please take this." Feng Qiuyan didn't stand on ceremony as he slashed with his saber. Feng Qiuyan's strike was as heavy as a mountain. It was so fast that even though one could see it clearly, one couldn't dodge it. What was even more terrifying was that the saber had a biting cold saber aura. In an instant, it streaked across a distance of several meters and slashed at Zhou. Feng Qiuyan's saber was fast, but Zhou wasn't slow either. He moved his body sideways and dodged Feng Qiuyan's saber aura. At the same time, he used Dragon Gate Fairy skill to try his best to dodge Feng Qiuyan's sharp saber technique, Rose Saber Aura. Feng Qiuyan's saber was faster than the last. Zhou pushed the Dragon Gate Fairy skill to its limits, but he found it more and more difficult. It was as though he was a tiny boat in a raging sea that could sink at any moment. Zhou tried his best, but he could only barely prevent himself from being struck by Feng Qiuyan. If it was a pure competition of technique, Zhou couldn't even find a chance to counterattack. "Wait a minute," Zhou suddenly shouted, stopping Feng Qiuyan from continuing his attack. "Coach, what's the matter?" Feng Qiuyan stopped his saber and asked. "You have slashed a total of 23 times. Even if each strike only expends one primordial energy, your primordial energy should have been depleted. How can you still use saber aura?" Zhou asked as he stared at Feng Qiuyan. Furthermore, Feng Qiuyan's saber aura was so powerful. It was impossible for him to only expend 1 point of saber aura. Feng Qiuyan said, "This is because I've raised my primordial energy skill, startling Rainbow Saber Aura, to rank 10. After advancing to rank 10, the expenditure on primordial energy has been greatly reduced. Furthermore, my life providence and primordial energy art augment my saber techniques, further reducing the expenditure and speeding up my primordial energy recovery. Under normal circumstances, I can slash out 27 times consecutively before my primordial energy is completely expended. Do all primordial energy skills have such effects after reaching rank 10? Zhou asked in surprise. However, no matter which primordial energy skill it is, there will be a qualitative leap when it reaches rank 10. However, the effects might be somewhat different. Don't you know, coach? Feng Qiuyan looked at Zhou in puzzlement. He believed that Zhou definitely knew about this. I've never cultivated startling Rainbow Saber Aura, so I don't know the effects of startling Rainbow Saber Aura at rank 10. I'm just asking. Zhou thought of his Ashen Palm. Although it was only a mortal stage primordial energy skill, it was abnormally powerful. It had quite a bit of lethality against legendary creatures. Vigor Divine Fist, which was also at the mortal stage, was no longer suitable. Astral Slash Blade and Astral Suction Palm don't have any rank. I'm afraid they can't be improved. Ashen Palm is already at rank 10, but it's a mortal stage primordial energy skill after all. Its strength can't keep up with my current needs. I wonder if there's any possibility of improving it. Zhou decided to use Ashen Palm to fight Feng Qiuyan. However, he soon realized that Feng Qiuyan's technique was much more mature than his. Soon, Zhou was at a disadvantage. All he could do was use Dragon Gate Fairy skill to dodge, making it difficult for him to find an opportunity to counterattack. Feng Qiuyan's saber techniques became faster and steadier. Even without the assistance of the saber aura, he still had extremely powerful lethality. Chapter 170. A typical legendary had a maximum speed of 18. Now, Feng Qiuyan's saber technique probably had a speed of 28, much less 18. Furthermore, it was getting faster. If the speed exceeded the user's control limit, the user's reaction would not be able to keep up with the speed, and it would be easy for flaws to appear. However, Feng Qiuyan's saber technique was as steady as a mountain. No matter how fast the saber was, he could control it freely in his hand. There were no signs of him losing control after speeding up. Zhou had to admit that Feng Qiuyan was really strong. He was a genius born for the saber. If Zhou hadn't risked his life in-game to exchange for a large amount of combat experience, a legendary student with similar stats to Zhou would have long been slain by Feng Qiuyan. From the looks of it, combat techniques are equally important. Primordial energy skills also need to be raised to rank 10. Zhou had already realized his shortcomings. He had learned quite a number of primordial energy skills, but not many of them were useful. Astral Suction Palm and Astral Slash Blade were very practical, but they drained his primordial energy too quickly. The Ashen Palm at the mortal stage could no longer keep up with the tempo. The legendary Great Strength Vajra Palm was only at rank 7. After some thought, other than Dragon Gate Fairy skill, Zhou didn't seem to have any other practical skills. At the very least, against an expert like Feng Qiuyan, ordinary primordial energy skills were useless. Zhou stopped counterattacking and switched his primordial energy art to Dao Body. Using the Dao Body's characteristic of rapidly recovering primordial energy, he kept using Dragon Gate Fairy skill to deal with Feng Qiuyan. Even so, Zhou still found it increasingly difficult. Feng Qiuyan's saber techniques seemed to be able to increase his saber speed infinitely. Each strike was faster than the last, as though there was no limit. There was no limit to the saber's speed, but Zhou movement technique had a limit. He was gradually unable to dodge Feng Qiuyan's saber. A glint flashed in Feng Qiuyan's eyes as though he had already seen Zhou's limits. His faith was as firm as a mountain as he slashed out with both hands. This saber strike was like a gigantic axe splitting a mountain. It was unstoppable, and its speed was like lightning. It tore through the air resistance and brought with it a sharp whistling sound as it slashed at Zhou. With Zhou's present movement speed, it was impossible for him to dodge the strike. However, Zhou didn't show any signs of panic. His eyes were calm as the entire world seemed to slow down in his eyes. He tapped the ground with his toes and retreated with the wind. It didn't look as fast as before, but Feng Qiuyan's saber beam was still 3 inches away from Zhou's clothes, unable to approach him. Qinggong's version of lifting something light as if it were heavy. Feng Qiuyan's eyes were filled with excitement. Holding the saber with both hands, he slashed out repeatedly. The saber momentum was like a raging wave, sweeping towards Zhou. Zhou's heart was calm. During the battle, he had also gained insight into the concept of lifting something light as though it were heavy. He pushed Dragon Gate Fairy skill to rank 10. The rank 10 Dragon Gate Fairy skill not only augmented Zhou's speed, but it also increased his ability to stay in midair. It also reduced the expenditure of primordial energy. There were other wonderful things that could not be explained in a few words. However, in terms of pure speed, he was still inferior to Feng Qiuyan. After all, Dragon Gate Fairy skill had its limits, but Feng Qiuyan's saber speed did not. Similarly, at the realm of lifting something light as though it were heavy, Feng Qiuyan's saber quickly caught up to Zhou in midair. Just as he was about to strike Zhou, Feng Qiuyan was suddenly taken aback. This was because Zhou's body suddenly turned light as though he was weightless. As he rapidly plummeted, it was as though a parachute had opened, giving him the illusion that his body was rising in the opposite direction. This change in speed made Feng Qiuyan make a mistake in his judgment. The saber slashed at Zhou's feet, failing to touch him. Zhou danced in the air like a fairy, but in the next second, his speed suddenly accelerated. He seized the instant when Feng Qiuyan made a mistake in his judgment. Like a bolt of lightning descending from the sky, he struck Feng Qiuyan's head. Feng Qiuyan's saber momentum had already been used up. His body advanced with the saber momentum, making it impossible for him to dodge Zhou's palm. Feng Qiuyan was decisive. He abandoned his saber and turned to the side, dodging Zhou Wen's palm. At the same time, he turned around and brushed past Zhou Wen. He grabbed the saber that was flying in midair and slashed at Zhou Wen with the momentum. Using the immense strength from his spinning waist, he slashed at the airborne Zhou Wen. In midair, Zhou Wen's body became light again, causing Feng Qiuyan to make a mistake in his judgment. His saber slashed into thin air again. This time, Feng Qiuyan didn't pursue him. He stared at Zhou Wen with glowing eyes and said, as expected of Coach, "That was the reverse application of lifting something light as though it were heavy, right?" Zhou Wen nodded. Lifting something light as though it were heavy. Lifting something heavy as though it were light is a combination of positive and negative applications. It's just a small trick. It sounds easy, but it's very difficult to actually do it. Coach, you taught me another lesson today. I know how to cultivate next. See you next time. With that said, Feng Qiuyan turned around and left without any hesitation. This Feng Qiuyan is really terrifying. If I hadn't comprehended rank 10 Dragon Gate Fairy skill, I would probably have died here. Ignoring those special physiques and primordial energy arts, Feng Qiuyan is much more terrifying than Hardedef. Zhou Wen was in a good mood. Raising his Dragon Gate Fairy skill to rank 10 had greatly increased his combat strength. Furthermore, today's battle had allowed him to find his weakness and give him a direction for improvement. Raising my level is important, but I can't fall behind on techniques and technique. After all, no matter how strong one is, they need the support of powerful techniques to be able to unleash their greatest might. Zhou Wen was considering what technique he should practice. There were too many techniques in the world. Sabers, swords, poles, spears, whips, axes, hooks, tridents, all sorts of weapons had techniques that complemented them. Feet, fists, fingers, palms, and legs all had different technique. A person's energy was limited after all. Although Zhou Wen was considered talented and could master everything very quickly, being proficient in one was clearly easier to reach the perfection realm than practicing everything. Furthermore, Zhou Wen still needed to find time to raise the few primordial energy skills that were more suitable for him to rank 10. He also needed to spend time gaming to drop high-level crystals. He really didn't have the time to master all of them. After some thought, Zhou Wen thought of a perfect solution. It would be a waste of time to train his weapons and raise the rank of his primordial energy skills. Therefore, Zhou Wen decided to practice palm techniques and practice them together with his ashen palm. With his Dao body's ability to rapidly recover primordial energy, Zhou Wen felt that he could do both. Since ordinary primordial energy skills can be raised to rank 10, why can't I raise a mortal primordial energy skill to the legendary stage? Zhou Wen made up his mind to cultivate Ashen Palm. Chapter 171. Over the past few days, Wang Fei had been seriously considering how to teach Zhou Wen. In the end, the result of her consideration was that Zhou Wen didn't need a lot of repeated practice. Instead, he needed a beacon of light, a beacon that could allow him to see into the distance. Therefore, Wang Fei thought of someone, the tutor at the college, Wang Mingyuan. Wang Mingyuan was an old tutor at Sunset College. He was almost at the age of retirement. Currently, he was only doing some research and didn't lead any classes. However, he still had a few students by his side. They were all outstanding talents in the college. Although they weren't as famous as Wei Guo, they weren't inferior to Wei Guo in their professional fields. In fact, they might even be stronger. Wang Mingyuan was Wang Fei's uncle, so she had a deep understanding of him. She knew that although Wang Mingyuan's level wasn't considered high and could only be considered average at the epic stage, some of the things he had researched were enough to be ranked at the top of the Federation. In certain fields, Wang Mingyuan's theoretical knowledge could be said to be the best in the alliance. If Wang Fei were to ask for it, Wang Mingyuan would likely give Zhou Wen a chance. Now, Wang Fei was afraid that Zhou Wen would be too proud and unwilling to learn from Wang Mingyuan. Wang Mingyuan's theoretical knowledge was indeed very impressive, but his personal abilities weren't very strong. In terms of strength, Wang Mingyuan could only be ranked below average among the tutors at Sunset College. A genius like Zhou Wen probably wouldn't like such a teacher. Typical geniuses liked people who could use practical actions to teach them a lesson. Wang Fei couldn't think of a good solution, so she could only try to convince Zhou Wen. Just as Zhou Wen was considering which tutor he should attend and learn palm techniques from, Wang Fei found him in her office. "Zhou Wen, I want to introduce you to a tutor. I'll let you learn from him for a month. Are you alright with that?" Wang Fei thought about how she would convince Zhou Wen later, and let him know that learning from Wang Mingyuan was more promising than learning from powerful tutors. "Does that tutor know palm techniques?" Zhou Wen asked. "Of course." Wang Fei nodded, unsure why Zhou Wen would ask such a question. However, Wang Mingyuan had indeed studied palm techniques, although it wasn't his main research topic. Even if they hadn't studied palm techniques, which epic-ranked expert hadn't practiced some palm technique? "Alright, I'll go," Zhou Wen said with a nod. The fact that Zhou Wen agreed so readily left Wang Fei in disbelief. The fellow who liked to game all day, and whom she had thought of many solutions to no avail, had agreed to study so easily. It made her feel like she was in a dream. "Teacher, what's that teacher's name? How can I find him? When can we start class?" Zhou Wen didn't wish to waste any time. He wanted to quickly learn some knowledge related to palm techniques and choose a suitable palm technique for himself. Then, he would combine it with ashen palm to practice. "The tutor I'm talking about is called Wang Mingyuan. He no longer teaches classes and only does some research. I recommend you to be his assistant. At the same time, you can learn from him. Just find him here." Wang Fei used her phone to send a message to Zhou Wen. On it was the address of Wang Mingyuan's laboratory. Wang Fei hesitated for a moment before saying, "Do you want me to take you there?" "Thank you, tutor. I can go by myself." After thanking Wang Fei, Zhou Wen headed for the address. Zhou Wen originally imagined that Wang Mingyuan's laboratory would be in a certain laboratory building on campus, but he soon realized that Wang Mingyuan's laboratory was in a dimensional zone. Old Dragon Cave. Zhou Wen wasn't unfamiliar with this place. It was one of the caves in Dragon Gate Grotto. Wang Lu had been there the last time and said that there was a dragon's roar and treasure glow inside. Zhou Wen had never seen the dragon's roar or treasure glow, but he had visited Xixiang Grotto before. It was to see the Dragon Gate 20 Pieces monument. Although it was called Old Dragon Cave, most of the carvings in the cave were Buddha statues. Zhou Wen had already been here once, so he was quite familiar with the area. However, he hadn't ventured deep the last time. This time, after passing through the caves, he saw a man-made door installed in a stone cave. Zhou Wen knocked on the door and saw a young male student open it. He had long hair and looked rather delicate. "Jiang Yan?" Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised. He actually knew this student. It was the student council member, Jiang Yan, who had previously recognized Death City. "Zhou Wen, right? Tutor has already informed me of your arrival, but he's currently in Dragon's Well for a practical inspection. He can't meet you for the time being, but don't worry. He has already left a job for you." Jiang Yan led Zhou Wen into the laboratory. Although it was called a laboratory, it was actually just a cave with a door installed. There were some instruments and machinery inside, and there were daily necessities on the other side. It looked unimaginably simple. Hui Haifeng. Zhou Wen saw two other students in the laboratory. One of them was Hui Haifeng. When Hui Haifeng saw Zhou Wen, he said with a smile, "I never expected you to become Tutor Mingyuan's disciple. Great, we can be considered true fellow disciples now." "Actually, I just want to learn some palm techniques," Zhou Wen said as he rubbed his nose. "It's fine. Teacher Mingyuan is reasonable. You can learn anything you want. He won't force you to learn things you don't like, nor will he make you do things you don't like." Hui Haifeng said with a smile, But before that, you have to complete the job tutor left behind. See that thing over there? That's the job tutor left for you before he left. Zhou looked in the direction of Hui Haifeng's finger and saw that it was a corner of the cave. There was a stone cave beneath it. It was pitch black, and it was unknown how deep it was. It looked like a deep well. At the edge of the cave, a metal chain extended out. It was as thick as an arm and was completely black. It was unknown what metal it was made of. Your job is to pull that chain up before you can rest, Hui Haifeng said with a smile. Although Hui Haifeng looked good when he smiled, his smile made Zhou feel that he was up to no good. He looked at Qin Yan, who didn't say a word. All he did was hand a piece of paper to Zhou. Zhou saw that the reason for his visit today was written on it, as well as the job he had been assigned. It was indeed signed by Wang Mingyuan. Since it's a job tutor Wang Mingyuan left for me, I'll do it. Zhou had no choice but to walk to the cave and reach out to grab the chain. With this grab, Zhou hands immediately retracted as though he had been electrocuted, causing Hui Haifeng to laugh out loud. Chapter 172. Zhou felt that the chain was bone-chilling. Holding the chain felt even colder than holding an ice cube. The coldness seemed to drill into the cracks of his bones. Hui Haifeng laughed and said, "Don't be afraid. The coldness on the chain can't harm your legendary body." "Why is this chain so cold?" Zhou held the chain again and felt like he had reached his hand into liquid nitrogen. Of course, this was only Zhou's feeling. He had never tried reaching his hand into the liquid nitrogen. Hui Haifeng said, "This cave is called Dragon's Well, but there's no water down there. Instead, there's a very heavy white fog. The white fog is extremely cold, and some places are even lower than liquid nitrogen. The chain extends all the way in and is affected by the white fog, making it extremely cold. If an ordinary person were to hold the chain, their fingers would probably freeze off before long. However, with a legendary physique, it won't affect them too much." "What's the use of this chain?" Zhou asked as he pulled the chain up. "Do you know how to fish?" Hui Haifeng didn't answer Zhou's question and asked instead. "I did it when I was young. It's just for fun." "I can't say I know how to fish," Zhou answered. "Then you have to learn well. This chain is used to fish, but it's not fish but dragons," Hui Haifeng said with a serious expression. "Dragon fishing?" Zhou looked at Hui Haifeng in surprise, hoping that he could explain clearly. Hui Haifeng explained, "This chain was created by Counselor Mingyuan to fish out the dragon in Dragon's Well." "There's a dragon down there? What kind of dragon is it?" Zhou was even more curious. In this era, all kinds of mythical creatures could appear. However, dragons were legendary after all. They were probably something that only mythical creatures existed. It was impossible for ordinary people to see them. "I don't know. This is Counselor Mingyuan's deduction. We have never seen it before, but there are indeed dragon roars coming from Dragon's Well. Occasionally, we can see a strange light emitting from Dragon's Well," Hui Haifeng said. At this moment, a lazy voice suddenly interrupted. "No one has heard the sound of a dragon, so how do you know that it's a dragon's roar? From my point of view, even if there's really something down there, it's just a dimensional creature. It has nothing to do with the mythical dragon." Apart from Zhou, there were a total of 3 students in the laboratory. The person who spoke was the third person apart from Hui Haifeng and Jiang Yan. He had a lazy look on his face. His hands were behind his head, and he was lying on a chair. His legs were casually placed on the table. He looked very lazy. "His name is Zhong Zia. He's also my mentor's student." Hui Haifeng gave a brief introduction. Zhong Zia leaned back in his chair and casually greeted Zhou. "Junior, you came just in time. In the past, I was the one who collected the crappy chains. Now that you're here, I'm finally free. Speaking of which, I have to thank you. It's my duty." Zhou didn't think much of it as he continued pulling the chain up. He had no idea how long the chain was. After pulling more than 10 meters, he still didn't reach the end. Furthermore, the spot he held felt colder and colder. Even with Zhou Wen's strong physique, he couldn't withstand it. All he could do was circulate the lotus flower Buddha body primordial energy skill to protect his hands to withstand the terrifying cold. Junior, you can't use primordial energy skills when pulling the chain. This is a rule set by teacher, Zhongxia said lazily. Zhongxia said lazily. Among the three of them, he was the only one who called Wang Mingyuan teacher instead of the usual mentor. Is there such a rule? Zhou looked at Hui Haifeng and Jiang Yan. Jiang Yan sat by the side reading quietly as though he hadn't heard Zhou Wen's words. He felt as though he was oblivious to what was happening outside and only focused on reading the books of sages. Hui Haifeng was using some equipment to train his body. As he did so, he said, "That's indeed the rule of Tutor Mingyuan. We can't do anything about it. Just bear with it. Thankfully, the cold won't really hurt you. It'll just make you feel a little uncomfortable." What a strange tutor. Zhou had no choice but to dispel the lotus flower Buddha body and rely on his hands to resist the cold on the chain. The more Zhou pulled, the colder his hands became. His fingers were almost numb from the cold, but Zhou had no intention of stopping. He continued pulling the chain. Hui Haifeng, Jiang Yan, and Zhongxia looked at Zhou as though they were watching something very interesting. As Zhou pulled, his last 10 fingers were numb from the cold. His hand slipped, and the chain that had been pulled up for nearly 100 meters slid down again. Hui Haifeng and company only watched. No one said a word, nor did they have any intention of helping Zhou. Zhou looked at the chain that had slid down, but he didn't feel discouraged. He sat by the side and rested for a while. When the cold in his hands dissipated and his fingers returned to normal, he got up again to pull the chain. This time, Zhou was a little stronger than the last time. He pulled it up to more than 100 meters, but he couldn't stand the cold and the chain fell again. After Zhou hands recovered, he grabbed the chain again. This time, he pulled it out for more than 110 meters, but he ultimately couldn't withstand the cold and the chain slid down again. After pulling the chain repeatedly for 7 to 8 hours, Zhou still failed to pull out all the chains. Just as Zhou was about to continue pulling the chain, he saw a person climb out of Dragon's Well. The man was wearing a winter suit and a helmet on his head. After climbing up, he took off the helmet, revealing a gentle face of a mature man. He looked quite young and had long hair. A few strands of white hair gave him a mature male charm. He looked like a big star in those movies and TV works in the past. Zhou imagined that he was a senior, but he heard Hui Haifeng say, "Tutor, you're back? This is Wang Mingyuan?" Zhou looked at the man in front of him in surprise, momentarily unable to accept it. He had heard from Wang Fei that Wang Mingyuan was about to retire. He imagined that Wang Mingyuan would be a white-haired tutor, but he never expected tutor Wang Mingyuan to look like this. "Are your hands all right?" Wang Mingyuan nodded slightly at Hui Haifeng and company before naturally holding Zhou hands. A warm force flowed into Zhou hands, instantly dispersing the cold in his hands. "Thank you, tutor. I'm fine," Zhou hurriedly thanked him. Wang Mingyuan let go of Zhou hand and asked with a smile, "How many times did you pull the chain?" You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.